Welcome aboard episode 111 of the Plastic Posse. This is Grant, and I'm here with Scott and Jensen. TJ and JB are at the Atlanta show this weekend. I'm wishing them luck and hoping they're having a great time down there at the AMP show. First of all, I want to say thank you to our sponsors and our partners, Tankcraft, To My USA, Bases by Bill, and AK Interactive. And also a huge thank you to all of our Patreons out there. We really do appreciate your support. So I'm going to catch up with Jensen and Scott right now. So Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, Grant. It's good to see you. I was telling Jensen just a minute ago, I feel like I haven't talked with you guys in like a month for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, it's good to see you guys and excited to talk some models and model adjacent things today.
Right. Well, between Seattle and other things going on there, you guys were on the road for a little bit. And of course, JB, our world traveler, is continuous to travel, going to Atlanta this weekend. I think he's going to Montreal here pretty soon, or Toronto, sorry, for another show. And so that's great to hear. How about you, Jensen? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Busy today, kind of ripping two rooms apart to make space for other things, but it's good. Like it feels nice and refreshing to reorganize the workplace. Got the display case now in the bedroom. I went through and dusted all the models I have it, and I legitimately not joking. I do have more built models that other modelers have built than I've built. Which is a little bit shameful, not gonna lie. I think there's 5 of JB's in the cabinet alone.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just every time I see him, I'm like, "Can I have that?" And he's like, "Yeah, go on." But yeah, it's good. Still got some models on the bench. I've got 2 at the minute, and I'm determined not to start another because I know for a fact that pile will start to grow, and I really do not want a growing list of that's part started, because I know it'll never get done then, and I'll just keep starting new things. Yeah, so 2 projects. I've got the FM1 Edward kit, which has come to a halt because I'm waiting on replacement wings. I butchered them trying to do the landing flaps, and I was like, oh, it's fine. I'll just take the wings from another F4 kit or an FM kit. Turns out wings are different. Can't take them. I actually need the wings for the FM1, so that's on hold. And I'm working on a little Zvezda Russian SPG thing. Not political, just a kit that I literally saw in the stash. I was like, it's 72nd scale. It looks like I can literally throw it together. So I did in one night. A Saturday night, I threw it together. It's in prime and ready for paint and stuff. So that was nice to get a model finished and built in just one session.
Yeah,
Felt really good. So I want to chase that feeling. But yeah.
Well, and a Zvezda kit, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. First, actually, first time actually building a Zvezda kit. I think, if my memory serves me right, it's a 2021 mold. I'd say it was just okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's the highest I can compliment it, really. It was just okay. Its details are quite nice, and it builds because there's so many. Well, then molded on details you have to add for its size. It does look quite nicely detailed. Mold lines hideous on it, so all the way down the gun, and it's a humongous gun on it. That's far from ideal, but again, don't expect it to be a masterpiece. Not an award winner. Nothing I'm gonna put in a magazine or anything. It was just something I want to complete.
Well, and I wasn't banging on Zvezda as much as they're just not known as shake and bake kits, right? I mean, the only one I've ever done is their 72nd scale T90M, and a very detailed little kit. But like you said, a little more in the mini art realm where you're going to need to prep each part. You're going to need to remove mold lines, and you're gonna earn it a little bit more than say like a Tamiya kit or even a Tacom kit.
Yeah. I've got a couple of Zvezda kits in. I've got the IL-2 when that came out. I was just like, I really like that aircraft. So I got that again, one of those kits. I'm going to start that soon. Buy it straight in the stash. Not seen it for years. I actually don't know where it is.
I've heard good things about that IL-2. It's supposed to be really detailed.
Yeah,
it's such a lovely aircraft as well. The IL-2. But yeah, it's just been nice to get some stuff thrown together.
Yeah. I built a couple. I built the Zvezda 170 or 135th scale T62, which was a good kit. It was one of the newer kits, so a little bit better, I think, than what we're seeing in 2021. The quality was really good. The detail work on that kit was amazing. I think it's better than the Trumpeter, in my opinion. I know I'll piss off some people there, but definitely better than the old Tamiya kit. But it was a good kit. Zvezda does some good work. It depends on which one you get. The older versions, of course, are when they're first starting out. It's going to be the same way with any manufacturer, but it's a good kit. Speaking of kits on the table, what are you working on, Scott?
So I'm working on my Mini Art Chevrolet and some other things going with that. I don't want to talk about it too much, but that Mini Art Chevrolet, it's similar to the one that Martin did for his water wheel diorama. I'm doing the version that has the dual wheels front and rear, and then it's modeled as like an American post-war like service station type vehicle with a flatbed and a crane. I'm not going to use the crane. I'm going to put something else on it for a diorama I have planned. But anyway, I've got the chassis all put together except for the front and rear axles. I've still got to do that, hoping that Jackson's going to come through with an STL that he and I kind of talked about. He's a busy kid, so I don't know if it'll happen or not, but I'm hoping it will. He's really good at what he does. And then I built the engine for it as well. And then I kind of been working on some other elements and been looking at a lot of figures online, STL and resin figures for my application. It's been a bit of a challenge because there's a lot of figures that come from China, and any resin figures that come from China, I'm immediately just very suspicious of counterfeits, and just really want to make sure I don't support anything that's taken money out of legitimate figure makers' pockets.
Right. Definitely. I mean, if you're going to buy something from China, make sure it does have the product name on it and the boxing and stuff like that. Definitely, so you're not getting someone scamming off copies and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, that's great to hear. Myself?
What about? Yeah, I was going to say, what are you working on?
I just finished my Kuba wagon, the main Kuba wagon build. That
very, very nice.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That was a great kit. I really did enjoy that kit. Went together really fast, fantastic detail. It was a really good kit. I kind of did the same thing that TJ's doing. I used the folded tarp top from the Africa version on the European version one, and I just switched out the tarp parts, and they just a couple parts for each one anyway. I did that way, and I just threw a figure on it, threw it on a base, and I'm done. And I really had a good time. I hadn't built a model like that in a long time, and just getting back into the building process was fun, and painting process. I picked up JB's book, ammo book on painting 3-tone camouflage of the Panther, and used that as a guide to help me paint the vehicle, and that was great. Just kind of followed what through and just did my own thing a little bit on it. Had a great time with it. Other than that, I am working on a small little another vignette for hopefully have it done by Commies Fest in Colorado in April, which I'll be going to with the rest of some of you guys here. And that's about it. I mean, I have the new Tamiya Panzer 1 that I want to build. I just haven't got to it yet. It looks like a little fun kit. I'm just playing around, just getting it cleaned up right now and starting to put parts together. But other than that, I'm just working on that and just been enjoying the hobby a little bit more than usual. Instead of painting figures all the time, just kind of getting back into building things again, painting stuff and cleaning stuff, which is fun.
Admit it, you've been really missing the smell of Tamiya thin cement. You've been in withdrawals. It seems like you pounced all over that Kubel. And
I've been snorting this super thin or the thin like it's I can't buy it. I have to have an adult buy it for me now before they won't let me come in and buy it anymore. But you have to be old to remember the testers days, people, when we had to buy your parents had to buy your glue for you.
So bad. I think that tube glue drove more people from the hobby than a lot of other things. I want to go back to your Kubel though. The diffused, Jensen, I'd like your take on that too, but the diffused camo you put on the Kubel is really, really good. I thought it was one of the best I've seen in a while.
Appreciate it. I just kind of took what I'd learned from you guys, from JB and Jensen and all you guys, and just muted down the colors a lot, and then just put my airbrush on a low PSI and just sprayed it very quickly and very small, very tight little areas, and came out good. Then when I got it done, I went back to the original color and lightened it down and just did a top coat over the whole thing, which just kind of killed the whole lines on it, so it gave it that really diffused look. So the book that JB has from ammo is really good. It's very, very to the point, what you need to know and how you need to know to build it and paint it, and you can't go wrong when you read something like that. And of course, we've got some really good friends here on the page that have helped me a lot with stuff like that. Just everybody. So I really appreciate all the help, and it was just a fun build.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. That camo it's it seems in principle quite simple, but it's really hard to actually get the finish you got. And to
Yeah.
look as well as it did.
Yeah.
And you've done a good job when Sam Dwyer is telling you you've done a very
Yeah.
good job.
Yeah, that when he said something, I was like, oh shucks, I did something good.
I want to also talk about your basing a little bit before we move on, but this is kind of like a bonus to the models we liked on the Posse feature, right? But
Yeah.
talk to us about how you kind of designed the base, and the presentation looks really terrific. And you've taken what's essentially a $15 model kit, and you've turned it into something that is just so much more than just a little Kubel. Talk to us about kind of where that started and how you got to where you ended up.
So the idea of the base itself is only a 5.5 inch PVC pipe, black PVC pipe I bought off Amazon for like $8. Took it to a band. We have bandsaws in my work, so I cut it the length of it I wanted. Just cut it, then took a piece of sheet styrene put it on top, and super glued it to the top, and that was the base. And I saw that from Squidmar. They do a lot of their bases with PVC pipe now, and it's cheap, it is fast, and you get a good quality out of it. And then I just use layered sheets of cork on the top with VMS basing material to give it that slight incline or decline, whatever you want to call it. And then after that, I dried and some top cover on it, and then like 4 different lengths of static grass. So the static grass, I used to only use one length, and it just looks too plain, too normal, no disrespect, but it kind of looks too railroad model diorama kind of looking, where it's all level. And so, and then
like one of those grass mat things.
The
that
old
model railroaders
Walthers or whatever it is, or And then I just took the really like the tall stuff, like the 12, the high, like the 12 millimeter, whatever it is, and I just cupped it in my fingers, made a little clop, and put super glue on the bottom of it, and just super glued it right to the other grass. And then it just kind of turned out, and then painted everything. Then I went to the Uncle, Martin's favorite color of black, and then just started painting it all green and brown and stuff like that with my airbrush. Seemed to work out. I mean, it worked out pretty fast and pretty easy. The PVC pipe idea is great. I mean, instead of having to spend, it's nothing against wooden bases, but when you need to do something quick, like this whole project it was very easy to do that. Just get the size I wanted and cut it, and put a piece of sheet styrene and cut it, make the cap on it, and you're good, and you're off to the races. So that's how it came together. It really came pretty quick.
Oh, well done. It's
thank you.
Really, really nice. Look forward to seeing what else you're working on. I think I'm going to hit my Kubel now that we're almost to March. Maybe Justin does a March Madness build during the month of March, and then that kind of coincides with our little Kubel group build ending up. So I think I might just throw one together as well and put a little simple base on it. Yeah. And for those listeners out there as well, the group build ends on March 31st.
Yep.
Lots of Kubels are getting built, it looks like.
There's a lot of them out there. I mean, even Bruce is sharing STLs for door handles. Thank you, Bruce.
James at LPJ has some STLs that he's offered for free as well. Yep. So that's awesome. If
you become a patron of his or a Patreon of his, you can get a lot of the upgrades that he does also. But he's offering a lot of some really good stuff too. A lot of people there's a lot of them being built out there, and they're looking really good. I mean, it's just a good little fast group build. It's been enjoyable.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. Well, if it's okay, I'll take us on a little bit of a tangent here.
Okay.
Just a reminder, everybody, the weekend of March 14th, 15th, and 16th, we have the Model Officers Mess Global 48 and 48 group build for Models for Heroes. There's a post pinned in the Plastic Posse for the details on that. We have a segment right now with James and Malcolm where we talk about the event, what it's for, why it's so important to our community and the people that we help. Encourage everybody to participate in whatever way you can, whether it's just logging on and joining in the group build, or making people aware of it, or actually making donations. Please help in any way that you can. And here is that segment. John, how you doing this morning?
Yeah, doing great, Scott. Happy to be here and chat.
And who's this bloke over here? James, welcome.
Oh, the handsome one, you mean? Ah, that'd be me.
That's
Hi guys,
right.
how you doing?
Good. Thanks for taking time away from your modeling competition of the actual human style. You know, the runway work you do is impeccable. Always a lot of fun.
Well, it's hard to find time to be able to do other things outside of that, but I will always make time for you, as you know.
Yeah, it's good that you manage it. You manage everything. So anyway, noticed a couple of Sea Kings on the bench. Those are looking great.
Yeah, yeah, long story. So, Airfix 148 Seeking promised Dale that I would make a kit up, and I've taken forever. And then when I finally got to the point, I was really the kit's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It's really enjoyable to build. It fits together like Lego, effectively, and loved it. And I lost my mojo because I sent a picture of it to Dale and went, "Oh, look at me! Aren't I really good?" And he went, "That's the wrong yellow, James." So yeah, and then I realised I'd stuck a few things on it that I shouldn't have, and yeah, it just went up onto the shelf of doom. But I promised that I would do one, and then obviously I've been busy with some other bits and pieces, and I got myself another kit, and yeah, so now I've got two of them on the go. I've got the right yellow this time, but that's all there, and then the other one is it's actually for Malcolm, would you believe? So I can't talk about that one. It's a secret. Well, it's not a secret. He knows I'm doing it, but it's a secret squirrel seeking. Let's leave it at that.
There you go. There you go. And for those of us who haven't been keeping up, how you feeling? Everything going good, strong?
Yeah, no, all good. The plumber's been in. They've fixed the leak and rewired it, and it's now got a heart of a 17-year-old and the looks of a 90-year-old. So can't have everything. But yeah, no, it's all going well. Thank you, and a massive thank you to you guys and your listeners for the messages of support. Obviously, while I wasn't well in hospital, it was humbling beyond belief. So yeah, and funny enough, I was telling someone just here only the other day that the weird thing about being in hospital was I managed to do more recording with Malcolm for the podcast than we do normally, which is a bit weird, right? But yeah, that was quite interesting. Recording a podcast while someone's trying to take your temperature. Anyway.
Definitely. Well, speaking of Malcolm, hopefully he'll join us. Let's talk about something that we've done this for years now, my friend, but really kind of doing some good for the community, and obviously Models for Heroes and the Posse's partnership with that mean a great deal. And James with the Model Officers Mess has put together this event that has really come to be pretty significant. I think I mean last year we certainly all had a lot of fun, but tell us a little bit about what maybe the 2025 event's starting to look like.
Well, we've been working on the 25 event for well, since about a month after we finished the last one, to be honest. There's a lot of change, all good, all positive, and all building in for the future. So I think the most important thing to mention right now is, or straight off the bat anyway, is we've got a website now that's the hub for the event. 48-48.org is the website, and that will be the home for and the hub of the event going forward. What do I mean by that? So the website has a little bit about what we do, what the event is about, who we support, Models for Heroes, obviously. You guys, the hosts, a little bit of blurb about you. Will go on there eventually, although your pictures are, most of you are up there at the moment. The donators, the people that donate stuff for the auctions, they've now got their own page, and their logo will be displayed for 12 months because that we want to give something back to them because they've supported us so hard and so amazingly over the last 7 years. What we have asked all of them to do is to provide us with a web link that we can put on that logo. So if anyone visits at any point through the next 12 months or so, they can click on that logo and go straight to the website. And that might generate some sales for them too. So that's really important to us because the main thing about this event, the 48 in 48 event, is about bringing communities together. Now, we're very fortunate that we managed to bring communities from around the world together. So it is a global event, which is quite a strange thing to say, really. But it is a global event. We've got people from all the way around the world helping, companies all the way around helping as well. So it seems to be right to have that ethos of bringing the communities together, but also bringing the companies together with our communities, and we all work together. So that's the aim. And up till now, that's exactly what we've done and achieved. But going forward, by having the web page, we can then provide our donors, not just our donors, but we'll talk about donors for now. Our donors an avenue to say thank you, and then obviously maybe to drive some sales as well. And the other part about the website is, of course, we don't want to just say thank you to the people that gave us lots of lovely models that we've spent an absolute fortune on that we daren't tell the wife about. We also want to say thank you to the community that got involved. So the community has its own page as well. So if everybody that signs up, everybody that gets involved will have their name in lights for 12 months too. So there'll be a picture of their completed model or part or whatever they don't manage to do in that 48 hours. We put a reveal album up in the Facebook group anyway, and we'll take one picture out and put their name next to that picture on the website for 12 months as a way of saying thank you too. There won't be a link for their social media page or anything like that, because we might break some rules by doing that, but it's just a way of saying thank you. And then of course we've got our merch and so many other bits and pieces on there. So that's a massive big thing for us this year. My business has actually paid for that website for the next 5 years. That money to pay for that has not come out of any donations. It won't come out of any donations. It will always be paid for outside of any money that's given. All the money that we raise goes to Models for Heroes.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, we've got a lot going on. Obviously, the format is the same in that we start on the 14th of March on the Friday at 7:30, gathering around, getting all our ducks in a row to kick off at 8, no matter where you are in the world. And we'll have our normal 3 area streams, which will all go through the same channel, obviously, but the hosts, etc. So we've got our Australasian element, which has got 5 hosts this year. We've got the UK and Europe, which has got about 6 hosts, I think. And then we've got you guys in the US and Canada, which we hope will have a similar amount of hosts instead of making Darren and Scott work ever so hard. Hopefully they'll get some help this year. So I think they got help last year, in fairness, but who puts the name forward should be put up on the web page as well as thank you. So, but yeah, so really looking forward to it. It's an event that everyone that gets involved in generally starts sending me messages about 2 weeks afterwards saying, when are we doing the next one? What's the theme? And can we do it before then? And yeah, it's great. It's a great event.
Nice. So for this event, James, is there any special rules in terms of entries? Because I know last year it's traditionally 48 scale. Last year it was opened up to essentially any model. Is there any rules for this year? What are your thoughts on what people can build and for this event?
So what we've done is what every year we tend to progress a little bit in some form or another. So yes, you're right. It started off originally 7 years ago as a 1/48th kit, and we've evolved it, and we're at the point now where, like last year, if it's a model kit that's not started, or a figure that's not started, or a book nook, it can be anything, Lego, whatever, anything that's not started, you start on that day and you do 48 hours, and whatever point you get to is where you get to. That's great. However, what we have done, as promised, is we've added another challenge into the challenge of challenges in a 2-part way. So we've nominated 2 kits this year. So first kit would be the Airfix 1/48th Supermarine Spitfire of any mark, or the Tamiya 1/48th Sherman of any mark. Those are our nominated kits, if you like. So we've sort of pointed towards those because we thought they were relatively easy kits to do, and you can achieve a reasonable build without getting too stressed. Then the challenge within a challenge is that if you want to, you can do a kit bash involving up to 6 parts of a kit or kits. And those 2 kits are the kits that we'd like you to kit bash. By that, I mean, if you've got a box of spares, you've got a bit of a Sherman and a bit of a Spitfire, that'll do. Don't go out and buy the kits so you can take a few bits out of the kits. Use what you've got. And hopefully that opens up another avenue for people to be a little bit adventurous and go crazy and build all sorts of crazy stuff. So, yeah, that's the aim this year. The rule is literally very simple. Rock up on the day, open a kit that's not been started, and do as much as you can, making sure you take plenty of breaks, eating, sleeping, and all that sort of stuff. But you've got 40 hours to see how far you get. And generally speaking, most people will get to a finished point, generally.
Yeah, these events really inspire, I think, a lot of camaraderie, which is, half the point. But with Malcolm maybe not being able to join us, James, as an ambassador and a longtime member of that organization, tell us a little bit about, for those who might not know yet, about Models for Heroes and about what this event does and how it literally helps people.
So yeah, Models for Heroes. I'm actually a volunteer for Models for Heroes. Malcolm Childs is the person that had the brainwave and put it all together, and works very hard to maintain that. The charity works with members of the armed forces, retired or still serving, as well as the civilian services, again retired or serving. And we use model making as a therapeutic means to deal with issues such as anxiety and PTSD and stuff like that. It's a mindful activity. It's well known that mindful activities can take you away from your problems and gives you something to focus on. And it's constructive, so you manage to have that moment's peace from all the other things whizzing around in your head, and concentrating on a model, let's say, allowing you to rest, just bringing rest to your mind. Although you're working hard at what you're doing, you are resting, which is crazy, but it works, it really does. I'm not a member of the armed forces or the civilian forces. I've not served in any form. However, I am very much know the mental health aspect, being someone that suffers from anxiety, and has had a breakdown and depression, etc. So I actually been model making for a long time and didn't realize that's what I was doing. But yeah, it makes sense to me completely. And that the joy that we have as volunteers to be able to help people in that circumstance with which would seem a really crazy, silly thing of a bit of plastic and a bit of glue and a paint. It transforms lives, saves lives. Even in the events past, we've had beneficiaries who have opened up and told exactly what the hobby has done for them, and to a point, this event as well. We certainly had a young man who won't mind me naming him, John in Australia. He's recently come out of the Air Force in Australia, had a lot of issues and bits and pieces, and this hobby and being part of this community, although it's a UK-based charity, we've adopted him, and it's made a massive difference to his life, massive. And it was what you tend to find is beneficiaries tend to get to a point they're coping and managing the issues in which they had or are still suffering from, and often become volunteers themselves, or are more than willing to help, because that camaraderie, right, between the forces always has been, always will be, and it doesn't matter whether you've served or you're serving or you've served, that camaraderie still continues. So yeah, it's a very important charity. We're very, very fortunate in the UK that we have this charity, and raising money for it makes a massive difference. So last year, massive help from the US in the amount they raised in the auctions. We raised somewhere between 8 and 9,000, I believe, last year, pounds, which is a massive amount. So much so that Malcolm has been able to move premises for the charity to a bigger unit, which creates a much easier environment to be able to provide the support, getting parcels sent out, storing models that are donated. So I think I'm right in saying, although I don't like blowing my own trumpet, or our trumpet, because it's not just me that was involved, it's us. We all manage that, but we are significantly the largest donor of Models for Heroes last year, I think, and maybe the year before. And we strive to raise money. We do set a little bit of a target, so to challenge ourselves, but every pound counts. So we don't raise thousands and thousands. It doesn't matter. Every pound that we raise helps. And just to give you some sort of idea, and I forgive me, I probably will get these figures wrong, but to send out a box of model kits to a beneficiary for the first off, which would involve model kits, would involve a cutting mat, would involve some clippers, some paintbrushes, some paint, maybe some glue. That box is around about 37 to 40 pounds, I think, per box, roughly. I think I got that right. So if you can imagine, 9,000, or let's say 8,000, divide that by, let's say, £80. That's how many people we've managed to help this year. So that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, every person is important, and when you look at those numbers, it's pretty humbling. But I think what makes me excited is that, you know, we all share a common passion for this hobby, something we talk about all the time. And to be able to take something that we all do because we enjoy it and actually translate that into a benefit for other people, and particularly people that we should be caring for, particularly for people that need a little bit more of our help and our attention, is just incredibly moving. And you know, the opportunity for modelers to do whatever they're comfortable with, whether that's just seeing the event and going to the website and making a donation, or whether it's showing up online and building your model and helping out with spreading the word, or whether it's, you know, getting involved in what in the US can be a little bit of the cutthroat auction environment, and trying to outbid your buddies to make donations and get something really great in return. There's just a number of really easy ways that we can use this hobby and use this passion and use this, you know, friendship that we have to really help people. And it's just something that we wholeheartedly believe in, and share that with you, James, and with Malcolm. And, you know, just always look to Models for Heroes as a real light and a real kind of beacon and example of, you know, what we can do if we work together.
That's it. I mean, at the end of the day, I can't emphasize enough that this whole event. I mean, yeah, okay, fair enough. It's my Facebook group. I started the crazy idea, but it's not me. It's the community. The whole community is so behind this. It's just breathtaking. You know, you've got people in Australia, you've got people in New Zealand, Japan, Sweden, France, Germany, UK, Canada, US. I mean, it's just to name a few. There are a lots of other people that I've probably missed out in that statement, but they're all willing to help, and they're all willing to drop a phone call or a buck or a cent or whatever. So that's amazing in itself. But one of the things in which has come from this whole event, because it came at the end of the day, I'm not going to lie about it. The whole thing started 7 years ago because I wanted the community that I was building to have a bit of a laugh and a joke, and it seemed like a really good thing to do. The fact that a charity's got involved along the way is just an added bonus, and the fact it's around my hobby, the charity, that's even more of a bonus. Malcolm's a good friend, another bonus. But that they're all put to one side when you sit and think about there are millions of modelers around the world still who will sit in their room or on a tray on their front room making a model, not communicating with someone online, not listening to one of our podcasts, or interacting through Facebook, watching YouTubers, you know, Night Shift, who, let's face it, blows us all away most of the time. Thank you very much for that. Feeling inadequate making their model. But if you get involved online a little bit, even just watching a YouTube, some crazy people sitting up for 48 hours making a model, well, who would want to do that? That in itself is phenomenal. I've had messages from people who are not part of my community, who have only watched it through YouTube and have been astonished at the things they've learned. That the overwhelming comment you get when you talk to a modeler, oh, we've got a 48-hour challenge, you fancy getting involved? Oh God, no, I'd never complete a model in 48 hours. I wouldn't know where to start. Well, I can tell you, there are pretty much everybody who is involved started at that point and went, oh, it's all about the kit you choose. It's all about what methods you use. And believe you me, when you're in a hangout, be it on Discord or watching YouTube or whatever, and you suddenly see someone using a hairdryer for the first time, which bear in mind, the only hair I've got is on my chin, so I don't understand the use of a hairdryer. You suddenly go, oh, Jesus, why didn't I think of that? That's amazing. And they are just some of the very small benefits you can get. And it can be from the simplest technique that you've never seen before, or someone you admire, like Rick Lawler, for example, doing a video explaining how he puts together a quick diorama, or Gilmon Dragon explaining to you, because he's got years and years of experience of using an airbrush, how to maintain your airbrush. All those sort of things are just super helpful. Because we've got this event and we have the ability to bring these communities together, it means so much. And the fact we've now got this website, and as I said near the beginning, is that we try and push the envelope every year a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. My aim now isn't just to get someone in South America involved in the stream or someone from China involved in the stream. My aim now and has been for the last 12 months of, right, Models for Heroes is a great charity. Why haven't we got one of those in every country? How do we do that? Oh, look, there's a community from a global community that we can use. We've got people, I won't name them, but I got somebody in Australia who wants to make the charity work there. I've got someone who you know, and we have done stuff with in Miranda and Stefan, who have a charity that was devised by the fact they came to learn about Models for Heroes and thought, that's a really good idea. Why don't we do that? Why can't we build more of those in more countries and create a bigger community where the community of model makers, service people, and the producers of the stuff that we use all come together for good? I don't see that's not something we can't manage. So why don't we just do it? And that's the idea. That's the whole idea. Is every year we're going to get bigger. Every year we're going to hopefully bring another one online somewhere. And that is a humbling thought that we could all be a part of that. And why you, the listener, don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah, for sure, James. I can't, echo you enough there. Maybe one question I'd love to hear more about, because it's a side, we talk always about the charity, the event itself, and the greatness behind it. But I think, and you've hinted at it a little bit in your questions, but maybe give our listeners an idea of just how much effort goes into this event every year. Personal sacrifices, not only it's staying up and managing it throughout the event, but you and Malcolm, specifically you, are really teeing this up throughout the year as soon as it ends. So maybe just talk through like what that demand is and how much, dare I say, you sacrifice.
I don't sacrifice as much as I used to. I got told off several years ago, and Scott was one of those people that told me off, telling me that I really shouldn't do everything. I must give jobs to people. Since I've done that, I've all but become almost like a director of the orchestra, if you like. And I'm really, really fortunate that I've got some amazing people who are willing to sacrifice their time. So from our point of view, here in the UK, we started the team. That would be myself, Steve, Carl, Lisa, Steph. We were talking about it before we even started the event last year, what we were going to do the following year. At the end of the event last year, we'd already got the logos and the stuff ready for merchandise before the next week rolled over. We set a plan out within a month between myself and Steph about how we were going to do the auctions. Steph is the auctioneer for the UK and Australia. And we clearly were outmaneuvered last year by the Americans with their amazing auction, which they didn't, in fairness, they didn't crow about too much. So, much, right. Anyway, and fair play to them. They've done really, really well. So obviously the challenge is there. So we've stepped up and we've been working very hard for certainly the last 6 months of trying to pull people together for the donators. And Steph personally, I know, has put quite a few hours in doing emails, talking to suppliers, and bits and pieces. For myself, I spent most of last year in a bed, so I didn't do very much other than point my finger and say, "Why haven't you done that yet?" I don't do that really. Everyone's really, really good. So, but yeah, certainly in the last, I suppose it really started ramping up for me September sort of time. September time, Carl and I sat down and we worked out all the merch, what we were going to do, what we'd like to do. And the merchandise this year we put it all through Redbubble purely because it takes away all the admin for us. Because what we've done in the past we would design stuff, have stuff delivered, and then send it all out, and that was a bit of a nightmare, if I'm honest. It wasn't hard work, but it's anything that resolves that problem is better. So we've gone with Redbubble for this year. Next year, we are already planning for next year. And our merch next year will not be through Redbubble, it'll be through someone else. We've spoken to someone and laid all the foundations for that 2 weeks ago. So that gives you a rough idea of what we're up to. Unfortunately, the person that leads the orchestra quite often has like brain farts and decides to go off on a tangent. Myself, that is, obviously. And then I throw these things out to the people that keep telling me that I mustn't do everything. So, yeah.
Tangents, you, James? I mean, come on. I'm not sure what you're speaking of here. No, I love the merch. I mean, that's that's something that I think maybe is a new avenue to help this event. Certainly, from a spreading the word, people are wearing shirts and have stickers and things like that, but also just another opportunity for someone who maybe can't sit down for a weekend and build a model. They just don't have time, but gives them another avenue to help out, to recognize the value in the event and make their contribution a part of that.
Yeah,
Anyway.
absolutely. And it's really strange that we did merch not last year, the year before, and people are still wearing those t-shirts. And the main reason, yes, don't get me wrong, there is the element of raising a little bit through a cut off the top of the product, and Redbubble, believe you me, it is very, very little. We put 10%, that's it. So we're getting very, very little bit of money out of every t-shirt or hat or badge or whatever. But if somebody wears that somewhere and that strikes up a conversation of, oh, what is that all about? You've got the possibility, you've got the possibility of that conversation leading to a possibility of someone saying, oh, it's a charity that's to do with veterans, and they might know someone that's struggling. Or it might just be simply someone that does model making that thinks, oh, yeah, it's a good challenge. I could get involved with that, or my club could get involved with that. So it just opens up another avenue of a conversation, and that's what we really want, is for what we do to start a conversation, whether it be in another country about having a similar charity, or a veteran watching and going, "Gee, I go through that scenario. I didn't realize that was something. Maybe I can look into possible help, or joining a group where they're online." That's what I mean when I was saying about someone who's still sitting at home and doesn't interact that way, but maybe watches it on YouTube and goes, "Oh, actually, I didn't know that existed." So that's what it's all about. It's just striking that conversation, and we can make a few pennies here and there. That's even better. It's the icing on the cake.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get down to some basics for the newbies out there, or maybe somebody that's kind of heard a little bit of the background on this but doesn't really understand the particulars. But let's kind of start out. So the weekend of March 14th is when the event will be, correct?
Mm-hmm, that's correct, yeah.
And it goes for 48 hours, and it's a global 48 hours. So depending on where you're at, it all starts the same, and it's all 48 hours.
That's correct. So wherever you are in the world, all you got to remember is the 14th of March, Friday, the 14th of March at 8 o'clock. That's all you got to remember. That's the basics. We stream from 3 different locations. The first stream will start in Australia, which is in the Australasian area, obviously. They're about 10, 11 hours in front of us here in the UK. So they'll kick it off. And we will join them, help them out with a bit of support before the European contingent will kick off at 8 o'clock on Friday the 14th in their time zone. And then obviously the UK will join an hour after that, and which we will carry on until then we get to the next time zone, which is obviously the Americas. We'll choose a particular time zone within the Americas for that to kick off, which maybe, Scott, you can remind me which particular time zone that is. But then obviously we'll continue around the clock until we get back to the Australian contingent, who will take over from the American contingent. So yes, it is 48 hours, but actually the stream is around about 70 hours.
Yeah. And I think we usually use US Eastern Standard Time as our anchor, but we'll be extending the hours appropriately. You can keep an eye on several different websites and Facebook pages and YouTube channels. James, I'm going to let you start, but if people want to know about this event, want to see a flyer, all the particulars, where do they start?
Okay, so the simplest place to start this year is the 48-48.org. All the information you need for the event is there. You have about the event, the timings of the event. The timetables aren't up yet. They will be there in the next week or so. And they are split into the 3 areas, which will be the Australasia, UK and Europe, and America and Canada. Under each of those buttons that you press, we'll have a full timetable of exactly what's going on within that time zone. So, for example, we will have already done the calculations of what time it started in Australia because it will be on your list. And then when it starts in your area or zone, it'll be in green and it'll show you exactly when you're starting. But obviously, all you need to remember is 8 o'clock on the 14th of March. Then if there's any other information you require, obviously 48-48.org will have it there. It'll have all the donors. It'll have the auction lists again by time zone. All the companies that have got involved, everything like that will be in there. But the one thing you may need to know is that we have a Facebook group, which is the Model Officers Mess on Facebook, which is my home, my community's home, where we will have an album for you to put up pictures of your build for the end of the scenario. If you're a member of that group, you're more than welcome to start a photo album and show us exactly what you're starting with, i.e. the box unstarted, and then every step along the way you can pop a picture up, etc., which I encourage people to do because it's quite interesting to see what people do. But like I say, with the reveal album, we'll take those pictures at the end of the event. We'll take some of those or one of those pictures that you provide with your name and put that on the 48-48.org website for the next 12 months. And then that way, that's our way of saying thank you. But yeah, basically, it's going to be all over the internet. It's going to be on YouTube as well. There are people that I'm very much aware who are shouting and hollering about it. All the podcasts are giving us time and promoting it because all the podcasts are involved. On the bench, obviously, they're involved. You guys are involved. Model Geeks are involved. Micro Machines are involved. But yeah, it's going to be everyone. And then obviously the big Malcolm himself, he will be talking about it in his Sunday show that he does for the beneficiaries. But you can see that on a Sunday on the the Models for Heroes YouTube channel. So that gives them a shout out too.
In addition to that, like you've mentioned, I'm sure the other podcasts will do that, but the Plastic Posse will have links and information, the flyers up already on our Facebook group that people can refer to. And of course, all of this starts at modelsforheroes.org.uk. People can log on to there if they want to make a donation, if they want to find out more about the organization, or they can hear from the man, the myth, his Malcolmness, because he has just joined us. How are you, Malcolm?
I'm fine. I'm here now. You can start though. I'm ready to go.
We were just talking about this little fundraising event kind of a thing. So,
oh yeah, the little one. Yeah, the one that's taken over everyone's lives. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, sorry, I apologize, mate. I wish I had an excuse, but I don't. I was actually playing badminton, which is a very British thing to do. But do you know what badminton is, Scott or John?
Yeah, vaguely. Yeah. I think it sort of resembles
involves conkers. I think.
Yeah,
badminton with the shuttlecock.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
The birdie, as we call it.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, Malcolm, James has, as you'll notice, has little beads of sweat because John and I have been working him over pretty well on this, but he's done, I think, a pretty admirable job here. But maybe, as the the founder and the CEO of Models for Heroes, maybe you could kind of talk about what this event means from both a community perspective, but also for a fundraising perspective.
Oh, for community, it's vast because when we're on the Discord, for instance, when we're on the Discord, the beneficiaries join that, as well as anyone who wants to join it too. And you'll get veterans from around the world chatting with UK veterans, and they're all exactly the same. They're all balmy. They're all absolutely brilliant and lovely, and they love their hobby, and they all bounce off each other, and the banter is brilliant, and the community is brilliant. In terms of what it does for their mental health, it's huge because they want to get back to it. They want to do it again and again and again. They want to, and I think we talked on our podcast briefly about I don't want to kind of double them up, but we talked about how it changes the way that you hobby a little bit as well for the better, because you develop new skills, or you see someone doing something quicker than you can do it, and you think, oh, I don't actually have to heat my deck of water. I can, that kind of thing. So it's good for your people's hobbies. But in terms of what it is for Models for Heroes as an organization, it's vast. I mean, we were able to last year we were able to move premises to a larger premises, which means more people being helped, more people able to be in there at once to help put more boxes together and store more stuff. So it was just brilliant. Over 9 grand sterling was raised last time, and it's just phenomenal. It's brilliant, and what the guys do, and what they show and the time they put in, all for free, is wonderful, and it just makes a great vibe full of fairy dust.
Absolutely. I mean, I really want to kind of double down on that. When you bring a kid into the weekend, and the goal is to get the kit done, and if you don't finish it, nobody's going to jail, right? It's all in good fun, but finishing something in 48 hours really kind of taps into other skills, maybe some more planning, and certainly some adaptability, where if you run into a regular roadblock, you can't just put it up on the shelf and forget it for a couple weeks. You've got to find a plan B. And so from that aspect, as a modeler, I think there's a lot of value in that. And then, kind of going back to the American side of this, getting people together on a Zoom is always a great thing. And it's always great to see people all over, spread out all over, where they're from, that you don't get to see that often. But getting that esprit de corps, being there to kind of think of something a little larger than ourselves, and then in the auctions and things like that, really really engaging in something that is a lot of fun, but ultimately the purpose is such a great one that it's going to be valuable in just every way possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I absolutely agree.
And I think I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed over the years is, I alluded to it earlier, where someone says, "Oh, I can't do that within 48 hours." No, I couldn't do that. They achieve much more than they actually thought they would, often finish, and then it seems to infuse them for the next few months, at least their energy levels completely disappear, where they're doing all sorts of things with model making. So it's not just the event; it's art. There's a definite bleed through into the hobby for them for a period of time. Sometimes it's much longer than others, but it does make a massive difference. And there's a big kick. One of the big kicks I've had through the event is, I was it not last year before, I started a model, came straight up to a problem within a few hours, and just like, oh God, what am I going to do? Started getting a little bit stressed. And do you know what?
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be one of those walk away from it moments. So let's walk away, pick another model, and I still finished that model within the 48 hours. So that showed me that actually, rather than stress over it, yeah, it's good to persist, but at some point you do need to say, do you know what? I'm just going to put that onto one side for right now, and I'll come back to that. And that helps. So yeah, and that gave me a big kick that year, real big kick, because I'm like, oh, I kept saying all the way through the thing, oh, I'm not going to finish mine. And then I did a diorama that went with it, and what?
Yeah. It's always that thing, isn't there? You always one up everybody as well. That's the fun thing. You're not just going to build a model. You're going to put it on a diorama, and then you're going to put a lights effects on it, and then you're going to put some sound chip in it, and then you've got time. Then why not put smoke effects?
Mm-hmm.
Well, teasing again the American portion. We have some ideas over here, us Yanks. I think people are definitely going to want to tune into the auctions. We're going to have, as usual, some really amazing things that you can purchase to raise funds. But we are going to be auctioning some more experiences. We'll just kind of leave it at that, and I think you're going to definitely want to see what those are all about. At the end of the day, we want to do as much as we can for Malcolm and his amazing team of people and help as many people as we can, and we're going to kind of be pulling all the stops out that we can to help support that goal.
That's amazing, really is
Wonderful.
And I think I think the big thing for us in the UK auction wise is that we have numerous donators that we didn't have last year. Steph's done an amazing job, and people have been very, very generous. And I can certainly say for the Australasia side of things, they're having a bit of a tough time down there right now. Certainly with their shows and sponsors for shows pulling out, and the manufacturers stepping in and helping out, because they've got a good community down there, very good. So it's going to be a tough year for them in that respect. But talking to the guys, people are still, people are emailing me saying, what we doing? And it's all been passed back to Steph, because, like I say, he's been dealing with it for months. So, and taking the time out for me, going back to what you asked John earlier about how it affects me, sitting up till at 3 o'clock in the morning to phone someone in Australia just to talk them through the event and what they're donating to, and having a great conversation, striking a good, something that I know it's going to be a friendship forever because fantastic people.
I've got a question for James, if I may.
Oh,
What are you going to build? What are you building for 48 hours? Have you got an idea?
I have got an idea, but I can't reveal it at the moment, unfortunately.
Okay. Is it one of the two kits that are being recommended?
No, it is not. I have gone off on a tangent, would you
Of
believe?
course you have. Of course you have.
No.
It's all good for me this year. Actually, I'll tell you what. I can give you a teaser. So for me this year, it's actually not about the kit. It's not about the model.
Oh.
It's all about the techniques for me this year.
Okay, interesting.
So yeah.
Do you want to talk about the Sherman and the other one?
No, I've mentioned it. The
Okay.
Sherman and the Spitfire has been mentioned, and
Okay.
obviously the bashing of the kits that's been mentioned too. Yeah, but like we said earlier, it doesn't really matter what you build as long as it's something in which has not been started. And it doesn't matter whether you finish it or not. So yeah, for me this year, it's going to be about techniques. I'll explain. I'll put a little bit of meat on the bones for you. Basically,
You just tell us.
back in no, no, I'm not going to. Back in November, the scale models for vets did their 48-hour thing, of which I sat and did a figure. And in that figure, I decided to do effects, basically. And I was amazed at what I managed to achieve in 48 hours. So what I've decided this year is I wanted to show people physically, because obviously, like I've harped on quite a few times about, is people go, I can't do that in 48 hours. So what I want to try and do is I want to try and find some avenues in which most people might not think they could do in 48 hours, which I'm going to achieve in 48 hours. And I may even do what I did for the scale mods for vets and give the viewers the choice as to what I'm going to do within the 48 hours, because I thought that was quite fun. So yeah, that's all I can tell you right now. But yeah, you'll have to tune in and be part of the voting.
There's a reason they call James the king of teasers.
Well,
Yeah.
it's amazing how long it can take to explain something that he's not going to do.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah,
Brilliant.
absolutely.
What about you, Scott? Have you got a plan?
Boy, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. It's the two kits that you've kind of primarily chosen to highlight, I think, are good solutions, but I don't think I have either one, so we'll have to kind of see about that. But I definitely want to try and start something that I can finish in the weekend. It's always a bit of a challenge, when you're twisting knobs and keeping everybody on schedule and telling James, will you just go to bed, man? Will you get some rest? I mean, you look like you've been hit by a train. Go to bed. So it's always a busy week. Yeah, probably a Tamiya 48 scale armor kit or something like that. I think those are usually solid choices, or maybe a Star Wars Legion kit. I've done a couple of those, and those are a lot of fun. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Not trying to be dodgy like James. Just haven't made up my mind yet.
Yeah.
If you get the chance, this is a tip for anyone, but if you get the chance of a 148 Bandai kit, which would be our Second World War. So they're an old kit. You'll have to look around for them because they're not that easy to find. But if you happen to come across one, they are super amazing, put together really, really easily, and you won't fail to get that done in 48 hours. I love those kits. So yeah, that's a tip for you.
What about you, Malcolm? What's the boss going to do?
So I'm going to be doing the Tamiya motorbike that James did as your second build that you mentioned just now in the barn. You built the motorbike and the sidecar.
But for the listeners at home, Malcolm is a very tall man, so he's now reaching to the very top of the shed and retrieving his kit.
Yeah, it's on the second story, so I have to reach up a bit. Here we go. So it's this one. This is the 148 German motocycle and sidecar, and it is literally, it's like a submarine. It's two halves. It's really easy. So there you go. It's just one sprue. That's
very
it.
Good.
So that won't take long to do, but that gives me more time to do other bits and pieces and other things as well. So I've got myself a plinth, which is sort of a mobile phone sort of size, like a brick, and it's going to go on there, and it's going to be doing something. I don't know what yet. Going through mud, being shot
something
at.
Suitably more motorcycle-ish.
Motorcycle-y. Jumping through the air, jumping through the air while firing a machine gun. I don't know.
Yeah, lots of Indiana Jones kind of things. So
yeah, great escape.
I think it's going to be quite amazing, actually, how you managed to get the smoke generating machine through the the machine gun that's on the sidecar while jumping through the air through a cloud of smoke. I think I just phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, I do have a bit of lighting kit left over from when I did that Meng D9R, and I do have a bit of resin left from when I'm doing that submarine. So remember, you don't have to finish it.
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, excellent. Well, let's wrap up one more time. Everybody out there, please, if you can, participate in whatever way that you can, whether it's making a donation to Models for Heroes, whether it's telling your friends at your local modeling club about this event, or actually joining us that weekend. Please do what you can. Support this event. We love it. We are 100% committed to it. You know, anyone in our community that participates, that makes it just that much stronger. So, Malcolm, how does somebody donate to Models for Heroes?
Thanks, Scott. Well, you go to modelsforheroes.org.uk, and there's a great big green button on your top right that says donate. Or if you're on a phone, it's right in the top middle. And you hit donate, and then you can find the address to donate kits to. You can find our Amazon wish list. You can find our affiliate links. You can find our PayPal address, so you can donate money if you wish to. Also, you can donate time if you live nearby. Sign up as a volunteer. There's loads of ways that you can help. But just sharing stuff from what we do is brilliant. You know, it's all about share stuff to people, and invite your mates and your clubs, and invite your buddies along. You know, come and join us. It'll be fun. And while I'm talking, and you guys are not, Scott, thank you very much for your support through the years, and recently with that awesome interview you did with Joe. That was really good. So yeah, thank you to you and Triple P and everyone who listens to you guys.
Yeah, thank you. We enjoy this. It makes this all definitely worthwhile. James, what's the website for the event and the particulars on how people can join in?
So with only 40 days to go now until the event, which is the Friday, the 14th of March, the clock is ticking on the website, 48-48.org. Everything you need to know is there. Right on that first page is a sign up button. Fill your details in and send your details over, and then that way we can keep you informed. But if you want to donate, on the top of that website, 48-48.org, on the top right hand corner is a donate button too. There are two ways this year to donate, to the Just Giving page or through PayPal Me. All the money raised will go directly to Malcolm and the charity. And as I say, any information, anything you are needing from me personally, then you can email us at contact@48-48.org.
And if anybody has any questions and those don't work, just reach out to the Plastic Posse podcast or Just Making Conversation podcast. I'm sure we can point you to where you need to go. Well, gentlemen, you are titans. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your efforts on behalf of people that really need our help. And thanks for your efforts in our modeling community to give us a place to model.
You're welcome. You're a star. Thank you for inviting us.
Cheers, Scott. Thank you.
All right. Well, hopefully you enjoyed that segment. John and I enjoyed recording with James and Malcolm, and we're looking forward to once again supporting that effort. And hopefully we will see all of you online. Back over to Mr. Mayberry.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that it's a great event. It's probably one of the funnest auctions you'll ever be a part of. The camaraderie and the auction. The auction is cutthroat, people. I mean, if you haven't been to one of these yet, you need to come watch, because there's a guy named Crazy Loca. I believe he's in Florida. Watch out for that man. He will cut you with the last second. And
well, these guys are pros. Joe Porsche.
Oh
gosh, and then of course Jamie and Mark Bradley.
Yeah,
I mean,
if
you want some of these items, you're gonna need to bring your A game for sure.
You're gonna know how to read a clock on one of these auctions, because they will drop it at the last second. They will come in behind you and just make you look like a fool because I know.
And, yeah. Well, and I just want to while we're talking about that, I'll just throw some thank yous out there. I got a hold of our great friends over at To Me USA and said, "Hey, can you do something? You guys have been a great sponsor." It was literally, yeah, we'll send you a box. And like 2 or 3 days later, I got this huge box of model kits. Just talk with Chris Sieber, aka Luftraum 72. He's gonna donate copies of his F-14
Oh,
book,
wow.
and also John Chung's new book on the F-18 and the F-16, which, by the way, is a stunning book. JB and TJ are going to probably do a review for us on that here pretty quick. Steve Munsell from Value Gear is donating. Tankcraft is donating. Bases by Bill. Those guys just can't thank our sponsors and partners enough for helping make this a success. And then, of course, the final piece is all of you out there, helping out in any way that you can. So anyway, looking forward to this event. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's I can't wait. It's going to be a blast. All right, so let's move on to the first discussion question. My question is basically, it's coming from a question we received in the podcast, and it was talking about the information we put out on the last show about one of the discussion questions about awards. And the individual talking about maybe doing the one award kind of style for all your work so you don't get too many awards, and then asked it possibly the organization selling a copy of the award or the coin as a way to earn money for the shows, because we talked also about how shows are getting a little bit more expensive or something to that effect, and how can we help serve that. I thought it was a great idea. There was some really good back and forth between me and Scott and a couple other people about this a little while ago, and I like the idea, and I want to kind of focus this down on what can an organization like do to help subsidize the cost of a show. What can they do going forward to help them? Can they sell stuff? Can they do? And I think the idea of selling a coin from the show is a great idea. All you got to do is get a generalized coin. And we've actually done it here in Southern California, where we had our general design on both sides of the coin, and we had a little spot in the bottom, and we 3D printed ours. So it wasn't nowhere near as expensive. And we just put the year in each time it changed. So that was a great idea. And those actually sold pretty well. I just want to know what you guys think, or any ideas about how you can help, what you can think to help organizations get their name out there and help improve lowering the cost of the show or something like that. So that was my idea. You guys got anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the Rocky Mountain Expo, and
Yep.
I don't mean to toot my own horn, it's just what I know. I think we really need to, people that know me are going to be like, their eyes are going to roll, but I think it's all about providing value. If you want people to come to your show and you want people to bring really good work to your show, I think you've got to provide an environment that makes it a valuable experience. And that can be anything from, looking at the cost of the show to the way that you award and what you award and what you emphasize. It could be in your seminars. It can be in providing unique opportunities. We have one of our show committee is a command sergeant major for the Utah National Guard. I keep saying Air National Guard, and he keeps giving me the look. He's a little bit scary. It's not the Air National Guard. Anyway, during our show, he'll do a tour of go across the street from where we have our show. He'll do a tour of a hangar that's full of Apaches and Black Hawk helicopters.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of one way. We partner with people to give seminars, and the expo for 2025 is going to have some pretty incredible value there. And then we've approached, and then I'll be quiet. We've approached the cost of the show as it's $20, and $20 is $20, but for $20 you can bring as many models as you want. Now we're not a show, that we, going back to this discussion that has a million categories, and we're not a show to come if what you're looking for is lots and lots of awards. We're a show that really focuses on the modelers. If Jensen comes to our show, all of Jensen's models will all be in one area together. It doesn't matter what genre, it doesn't matter what scale.
Mm-hmm.
And what we want is those open conversations so that Grant and I can go up to Jensen and say, tell me about this, because whether it's an aircraft model or an armor model, there's going to be some consistency in approach, and it also gives us a time element that you can talk about, show me your earliest model or show me your latest model. And then a lot of times you can actually see kind of an evolution in the work that's there. So anyway, just to wrap this up, I think no matter what kind of show that you're doing, I think you've got to provide value. As long as you provide value, everything is going up. All costs are going up. But I think it's really make somebody, as they walk out the door, feel like, man, that was inspiring. That was a lot of fun. I definitely want to come back next year. So that's my 7 cents worth.
What about you, Jensen?
Really good question. Really hard for me to answer. I think looking at alternate ways to reduce costs while still providing something to the modeler, to the attendee, is really important. I've noticed a lot of shows do like these coins, trophies, medals. They can either be glass or metal. And we know producing so many coins isn't cheap. And one thing I've noticed, and I don't know the price of them, so this really is just an assumption, but the show Scale Scotland, all their awards are laser cut wood, and they are really classy. They're very nice, and they're really nice because you don't really see it that often. And I imagine, again, just a bit of an assumption, that does have a massive price different for production than buying all these like metal coins that need to be like obviously cast or whatever, or trophies that need engraving, all that stuff. So I think that's one way of doing it. And yeah, again, like I say, the Scale Scotland awards they're just really tasteful. I just wood is lovely. Jeff Feller would love them. And yeah, obviously then there's the obvious, obviously entry fees to generate money, entry fees to enter the competition. Things like that. It's tough because to obviously state the obvious, things are expensive. That is just a matter of fact now. Things are expensive, and it doesn't look like really they're going to come down to a price we remember. I say like I'm 27. I don't remember the good old days of cheap. But yeah, it's a hard one for me to answer because I've been in the hobby a lot shorter time. I don't attend shows anywhere near as much as you guys do, and probably a lot of our listeners. So it's hard from that perspective for me to understand how that I can have a thought on bringing the cost down while keeping the experience for the attendee good.
Right.
Yeah, it's that compromise. You don't want to obviously, we need to raise the prices, but the quality is now gone shite. Because it's a very quick way. That's a show suicide. This is why I don't work in local government. I'm not good at saving money.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I mean, I think too is that one of the things that's nice about European shows, English shows, European shows, is that it's more club driven, in my opinion.
Yes.
There's a lot of clubs there. There's a lot of specific groups there, and there's a lot of people, and you draw more people, I think, in my opinion, when you do a show like that, because you're bringing in different genres and different kinds of modelers, and you're putting them in. It doesn't seem to me, I could be totally wrong on this, but it doesn't seem to me like the show is in Europe and in England is about the contest. Is about the getting together and the groups getting together and talking and people seeing different products and stuff like that. That's what I see when I've seen those shows.
Oh yeah, massive social events.
Yeah. So in other words, things are changing here a little bit, where it's more. I think, again, my opinion, it's more about it's more about the 1, 2, 3 here, or the show about the
contest,
the categories, how many categories we have, instead of more about the art or the fun that we do as a modeler that you see overseas for us. And I think that has a lot to do with the difference in, the quality of work and the quality of the people in the shows. What does that have to do with my question? I don't know. But I can tell you, I find it more enjoyable a lot of times when I'm at a show anywhere and I'm talking to somebody about how they built this, and they're very open about how they built this, or they say, how did you do this? And I explain, and they listen and stuff like that. And I find that interaction is so much better when you're at a contest, as something to that effect. I just do. And I think the environments are totally different, but going back to the cost, how it, like you said, all costs are going up and they're not coming down anytime soon. We just got to kind of find a way around it. And I think Scott brought up some great points. By one thing that can help a show is demo. I think if you bring in somebody that has, in your local area that's really good at something, bring them in and have them do a demo. That will get people excited. That will help bring more people in. That might, and they did demos in Seattle this year. Scott, how did that go?
I think it went pretty well, and I think again you're providing value. Rick Lawler was there, and he did a demo, and he's going to be doing a demo at the expo. So obviously, that's a great way. But I think, Jensen, what does it cost to get into Telford?
Ooh, been a couple of years since I've been. I think you get in for free, IPMS member. Which was always the massive selling point for being a member of IPMS UK. It's like, okay, I'll pay my fee because it gets me into Telford. Like, one, an hour early, two, free. I think, I honestly, let's just talk while I quickly Google this.
Grant can maybe hum a song while we do this.
So, that's really helpful. To price to be confirmed. Wasn't really what I was looking at.
Well, what does an IPMS membership cost in the UK?
Oof. That's also a good question. I'm really clued up on these things, as you can tell. You can tell I haven't been an IPMF member for a couple of years. So, okay, right. I have a website in front of me.
Yay.
I am definitely a person who's qualified to have an opinion on matters. Price list. Here we go. Heavens to Betsy. Okay. UK adult 18 and above membership for the year now is £32.
Okay.
Which, I think that price is worth it to get in, especially if you do Scale Model World for the whole weekend. I think being a member just for that reason alone is worth it.
I suspect a number of the memberships are probably sold by people who want it just for that, but okay, so 32 pounds, which is probably $45 US.
Right? Yeah, I'd say about 40 quid. About $40.
Yeah,
$40.
Yeah, and so like for our show, it's $20 if you're participating in the contest part of it, and that here in the US, if you go to a little bit higher end lunch, not McDonald's, but if you go for, say, a Five Guys, that's going to cost you about $13-15. So that kind of gives you a benchmark. So I think while shows the prices are going up, I think it's sort of going up at the same time as everything else. And I guess the reason I asked about Telford is, that seems really reasonable. And it's a show that, Jensen, that brings in more than 10,000 attendees, right? On a weekend, 11, 12,000 people.
Oh yeah, it is packed. Anyone who's been will tell you, just especially if you go like around 10 or 11 o'clock on the Saturday, it is heaving. It's a busy place.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing you can do, Grant, you brought up the laser cut wood. I think you brought up 3D printing. Maybe Jensen actually brought up the laser cut wood. But we work with Bases by Bill at the Rocky Mountain Expo, and they are fantastic to try and help make suggestions that help us provide value and keep the costs low. And then your biggest delta just becomes what the cost of the actual facility and your insurance and associated costs with that. But that's always, I think, going to be the biggest challenge when you're putting on a show, is finding the venue that checks all the boxes but doesn't cost an arm and a leg.
Right. That's got to be huge, especially for a new show that's starting. It's got to be very hard. I'm sure you can agree with that, Scott. I'm sure you went.
Yeah, it's the single most difficult part of the. Aside from, I guess, to figuring out what the soul of your show is going to be. What makes your show different than any other show? Why? What makes it compelling? What's going to make people buy airplane tickets or get in their cars and actually come attend your show? So probably right after that, it would be the most difficult part.
Yeah. Well, with your sparkling personality, that's why we all come to see you. And but no, I agree. It's got to be that's got to be there. But there's two things. It's a two-way street too. You put on a show, but you want to put on a show, and you want to have people come, but you got to make it's available to them. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do as modelers to help out a group to do that. You can donate kits to the raffles if they have a raffle. That's a huge thing. Raffles, everybody buys raffle tickets. I swear to it's like one of those things where whenever you go to a model show, at least, there's always going to be that person that buys $30-$40 worth of raffle tickets. And of course, they're the ones that walk out with the really nice kits. But, sometimes you just got to be that guy.
Squirrel again.
Yeah.
Jensen, is that a UK thing as well? Or is that just us Americans that get into these raffle tickets?
From experience, has to be said, like the raffles in America, people go, yeah. It's just the gamble, the chance of winning.
The gamble, yeah. At the end of the day, like whether we're watching football, we're doing fantasy football, or we have a bookie, we just love to gamble. Americans, we're just keeping it fun.
Yeah, which makes a show in Las Vegas very dangerous for some people.
Yeah.
No, but do they do raffles in Telford or anything like that? Or
you wouldn't think I've attended, would you? I know there are raffles at UK shows I've attended.
Okay.
If Telford has one, I can't quite remember.
Right.
I know Telford. I don't know if they brought it back, but I know it stopped at COVID, and a few years after it was still stopped. Kit swap. Massive room where everyone just takes kits they don't want anymore, and just everyone trades amongst each other. A really cool idea, but that stopped for a while. I don't know if it got brought back.
Yeah.
But again, not really the same thing. Not what you asked.
Right.
But I thought I'd mention it.
Yeah, we're just going to put you on the spot all day, Jensen. So don't worry about it.
Yeah.
That's right.
What's this thing?
Keep that web browser open and refreshed.
The kit swap's a great idea. I mean, I think that's a good idea that we don't do here. I mean, I don't know. I've never been to a show where we brought kits in and traded them off for somebody else. And then at least I haven't. But so I'm sure they do it. But that's a good idea. I mean, that's another way to generate people to come into into a location or a show.
And I think that's one of the reasons. Sorry, it kind of relates to the start of the question, but I think that's one of the reasons it stopped, because the cost of renting that one big extra room started to be not quite be worth it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, because you're basically renting a room for people to trade kits, so there's no profit coming in or anything like that. So yeah, it's just one of those things. I just was wondering if there's ways to help out people, because the shows seem to be, I don't know. I mean, at least where I'm at, there seems to be less, and I think a lot of it has to do with some of the things we've talked about today in this.
In LA, it's got to be venue. It's got to be venue. I can't even imagine. I mean, the last time I was in LA for a work conference, I think parking was $58 a day for your car, and that was whether you were there an hour or the whole day. And so your venue costs in a large city like that have to be tremendous.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of the reason why there's a show in San Diego that uses part of the annex for the Air Museum in San Diego, which I think that the group is a part of, which it helps them with their cost.
Balboa,
out there. And then there's Orange Con, which is a show that's been going on in Orange County, California for a long time. They've moved to Sunday because it was cheaper. But, and there's things that you can do, but, I think we're just seeing a very different change. And, people complain it's the internet that it's driving people to their not doing shows and stuff like that, just putting their stuff online. I don't know. I think that there's still a value in going to a show and talking to people at least, and seeing stuff and asking questions. And that's how I feel about it. So now that I've bored you with that question, let's go on to talk about kit that we liked on the Plastic Posse page. So I am going to start off again with Scott. What did you find?
Yeah, I am just blown away by, and I'm going to say his name wrong, so my apologies ahead of time, but Sun Yung Yang's, I think, 135th scale AEC Matador British truck. That thing is ridiculous. It's so incredible. The weathering is stunning. It's in scale. It's done really well. It looks like kind of more of like a van or lorry arrangement than a pickup truck type layout, but there's a canvas cover over the top of it, and he's actually drilled out the holes, or I don't know if the kit came with it, and then put in like parachute cord or something to pull that top down. Everything about it, the speckling that was done on it, it's a beautiful piece. And I just really, as soon as I saw it, I was just like, wow, this is really great work. So fantastic work. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out on the Posse. But yeah, it's the AEC Matador by Sun Young Yang, I think. So anyway, he's an awesome modeler. I know you've seen his stuff.
Yeah, it's really nice. What about you, Jensen?
Yeah, so it just goes to prove how good that model is, because I was also going to choose that, but Scott beat me to it. But my next choice was just like outstanding as well, and it's Martin Fisher's. I'm sorry if I pronounced the second name incorrectly. It's a bust of a US airborne with a bazooka.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's just astonishing figure painting.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Is that one based on Matt Damon in Saving Private Ryan? That's kind of what it looked like. It really
looks
good.
like him, yeah. I didn't want to say it was like Matt Damon bust, but I was like a very close resemblance to him. Yeah, Matt Damon.
Definitely the pose. I mean, the pose is the definitely one they had standing in the field. But yeah, you're right, Jensen. That his work is just beautiful. It's just such a light touch and just the fabric and just amazing work.
Yeah, nicely done, Martin. Really nice.
Done.
Gorgeous. What about you, Grant? What did you see that caught your eye?
And I'll probably pronounce his last name wrong. Christian Boldoff. He did a Centurion AVRE in the British green and black with the short, I think the 95 millimeter short nose on the turret with the dozer blade and the trench filling items. It just really a neat British tank that just I think needs a lot more fanfare, because that it's such a cool looking the way it's designed, put out there, and it's just a really great kit. And he did a really good job. It's from AFV Club. It's 1/35th scale. The detail, the weathering on the blade, the dozer blade on the front is great. All around just a fantastic job. Just a really fantastic job.
Those AVREs are like literally like a diorama in a box. It's such a great, interesting, unique vehicle, but it's such a great basis for a story because of what they did. And, they were very specialized, but it seems like an AVRE build is always catching my eye too. It's a really cool subject.
It is. It's a fantastic subject, and it's a subject I think that a lot of modelers don't really get into very much. You do have the Sherman recovery vehicles, which are with the big, huge A-frame, which are always very neat to see when they're displayed and they're everything like that. But I think the more modern day ARVs, like the Centurion, some of the Russian T-55 chassis ones, the VTs, the American. I can't remember the name of it just off the top of my head, but the new one that's off of the Abrams chassis. That's an interesting kit. RFN makes a great kit of that. The M60s, the AVRBs with the cranes and the short those. I think that, like you said, they're a diorama in a model. They're just so there's so much going on them that it's just really just an interesting build. And some of the I really kind of like some of the field modifications that happened during World War II with vehicles that they made them into ARVs or haulers. There's a famous picture of a 251 Hanomag early model with a crane on the front that the Russians made up, just basically. And that's a great. That would be a great little model build or try and recreate. You've got Gary did one of the VT-34s with the turret off up in Seattle, had it up there, and that's a great build. Now, speaking of, that was a really nice model. The pictures I saw were the stowage on the back of that thing was beautiful. Very good job.
John Gray's
John Gray. John Gray's work is so good, and he's getting so very productive and very good work. That's all I got to say.
He's a great guy to talk music with too.
Yeah, and you want to talk Rush with somebody, talk Rush with him. So that man knows a lot. That it's a great. He's done some great, but the AVs out there, there's so much of an opportunity out there just to build stuff. So let's move on to Jensen for his discussion question.
Righty, yeah. So something that's been on my mind recently, mainly because it's what I've been up to. So I was just like, this might be interesting to find out what my fellow posse hosts might have to say about it. So we all love this hobby. Otherwise, we won't be doing a podcast and building models. And we all know this is one of the greatest hobbies on the planet. But I sometimes think it's quite important to have multiple hobbies. So as much as we love to invest time, money, passion, energy into the things we love, I think sometimes it can be nice to also have a break away from channeling all focus into one thing. So I'm just curious if everyone's got like hobbies away from the hobby, if that makes sense. Like the reason I bring this up is because recently I invested in a full darts setup. So I'm getting into darts. I used to play a lot of snooker. I used to play piano. I play D&D. I game. I travel. I do all sorts, as well as modeling. So these are things that I like to try and balance this hobby with. I would always say modeling, when I actually do it, is my prime hobby. It's the thing I love the most, but it might be a personality trait. It might be an issue with me. I quickly burn myself by possibly getting overly focused and too obsessed with something. And then it kind of goes to the point where it's like, okay, you invested so much mental energy in it, you kind of need a break from it. As much as you love it, like too much of a good thing maybe isn't. I'm not selling this. I'm not gonna lie. I'm describing this bad, but yeah, it's having that very narrow vision focus. And I think it's a good idea to maybe like have multiple things on the go. Just so it's like, because I know TJ, he works out, he's got a home gym, he games, he likes to do other things. JB, he's in a plane more than he's on the earth. He travels a lot. Yeah, it's one of those. I'm interested to see, like, we all have hobbies, but what are your guys' hobbies away from the hobby?
You know, it's interesting you bring that up. I would say my first hobby is music, and I'm an old school album guy. Like I'm not this newer generation where we get songs that we love. I mean, songs are great, but I love getting an album, listening from start to finish. That's just kind of who I am. And if I found over the years that if I get an album that on initial listen that I just love, I connect with it immediately, that inevitably those albums tend to kind of fade with me over time, because you just kind of, I don't want to say you get tired of it, but maybe you get tired of it a little bit. But the albums that maybe you kind of like, but they need to kind of grow on you for a while, those tend to be the albums that over the years that I come back to and I listen to over and over and over again, and everything. And I agree with your premise, Jensen, that we should all be balanced, that we doing only one thing, is probably not healthy, unless that you've only got a little tiny, maybe bit of time or resources that you can put into it. Lately, one of my hobbies has been, I haven't spent as much time as I'd like, but playing the Ghost of Tsushima on my PC, which is just an incredibly beautiful video game. And, that's a lot of fun. I do like to read quite a bit. And, just there's a lot of, I have this weird collector's bone with Lego, with the minifigures, the little, especially Star Wars. I've got about 50 or 60 of those, just do a lot of other things. But yeah, I think those help keep your enjoyment of your primary hobby, I think, more intact.
I agree. I think that you're spot on. I burn myself out sometimes because I focus too much on the hobby. I love it, but sometimes I just have to take a break. I'm also a music guy. I grew up in Seattle, Washington, at the birth of grunge music. I was in the First Avenue in downtown Seattle, so I saw everything from Nirvana when they were a four-piece, Pearl Jam, Mother Love Bone, all those groups when they were very young. So it seemed like Eddie Vedder was in every single one of them at one time. And I kind of fall back to that. And I'm also the LP fan. I love records. I'm a huge record fan. So much to the fact that I have more records than I do. I don't even have a player anymore, but I still have the records, and I still need to get a new record player. But I'm a huge LP fan. That something about that tangentially holding those for me is one of those big things I like. Same thing about modeling is that I can touch it and I can feel it, and that's kind of got the same kind of concept with me. As I've gotten older, I've kind of stuck with things that are not. I used to play golf a lot. I don't do that anymore, but in other reasons. But stuff like that has always helped me. Things I'm doing now that have really helped me. I like to, and this might sound super nerdy. Well, I know it does, but I'm a huge math fan. So I do math problems, apps and stuff like that. I have an app. Basically you've got 24 hours to figure out a math problem, and they just throw random stuff at you. So I do stuff like that to keep my brain going. Helps with my job.
Hey, Grant, Everything that we do is super nerdy.
Yeah,
Just
but that's a little bit more nerdy. I mean,
I mean, I don't share your love for math, so I get it. But everything we do, I mean, this podcast, all the models we built is super nerdy. It's all good, man.
It's. I think there's a level of nerdiness to it.
I think nerds have, I mean, you know, when I grew up in high school, being a nerd wasn't a quote unquote cool thing.
No.
But I think now it's almost like, okay, everybody's a nerd.
Yeah.
We're all a nerd.
Yeah.
Just what is our particular flavor of nerddom? What do you think about that, Jensen?
Nerdosity.
No, I agree. Like on a Monday night, me and my mum do quiz night on the tit. So anyone in the UK will know this. Monday night on the BBC is quiz night. So we do Mastermind, and then Only Connect, which I find absolutely impossible, and then University Challenge.
Yeah,
love it.
Yep.
I mean, we're getting pretty good at it, and it's another thing really good for the mind. I think learn general knowledge and try to study these things really healthy for the mind. Otherwise, when you don't learn things, I think your mind becomes really lazy. That can't be a good thing. Yeah. Like I don't think there's literally everyone I know has the nerd thing. Like I've got friends like anything dinosaur. It's like okay, they know it. Like it's kind of scary the things they know. It's like okay, I didn't know this stuff existed. You do you nerd. That's cool.
One of my big things is I agree with you, Jensen. I think you've got like every day I like to do like some just little quick puzzle games like Sudoku, something to kind of make my mind work. And then I absolutely just ingest historical podcasting, especially a couple of my favorites. I mean, obviously Hardcore History is amazing. That's one that, you know, millions of people follow, but I also like one called Fall of Civilizations. And it's just all about all these giant civilizations that one day, for whatever reason, just went away, and kind of gets into that. But yeah, just eat that stuff up.
I'm the same way. And you're both right. I think there's that everybody has that level of nerddom, and just we have to, you know, live with that within that little level. And it seems like you're right though, Scott, too, is that when we were younger, it was not cool. But I think it's interesting how you see a lot more modelers talking about what else they do. I mean, that's kind of neat to see. There's so much you can learn from people. You know, I don't really listen to history podcasts, or I didn't, at least till I started on this podcast when Scott has talked about it before, especially Hardcore History. I love that podcast. That is one of those I just put in when I go to work or I'm on a long drive and just listen to. And it's just one of those things that's just great. And it just centers you, I think, a lot too. It has a lot to make you feel better. And, you know, you kind of get centered and ready for the day or whatever you're going to be doing that day. It's, you know, it's crazy is crazy.
Yeah, I think modeling is definitely one of those hobbies that very quickly branch off into other hobbies. And the first thing that came to mind was JB when he took us around Europe for SMC. It's yes, we model, but the history he knows and the research he put into finding all these sites and locations. It's one hobby becomes another that leads you into another. Like the rabbit hole is incredibly deep.
Yeah, that's definite. I mean, you can look at when people build models and they put the history behind that model. That's why I like TJ's Sherman. A good example for me is that the history he learned about that Sherman by walking around it, standing on it, looking at it. So the one he took to SMC, and you know the one he's actually taken to Atlanta this week, I believe, because I saw the pictures of it there. And so that like you said, Jensen, that's like people just go. The hobby's a starting point, the model's a starting point, but then they follow it to a different level. I mean, you know, stuff that we learned from building a model is phenomenal. You learned about history, where it fought at, where the vehicle fought at, where it was made. You know, it's not just a put parts together and you just throw it on a plaque and you're done. No, you learn a lot about it. You learn why it was painted this color at what time of year or what time of when it was built. You know, that kind of stuff is just like, it just leads off into a 1,000 different trails of interesting stuff.
Oh yeah, it does. And a lot of the people we know are evident of that. Like the extensive amount of research, and I'll say like JB, TJ, Jackson, Zach, the level of research they do into building a very specific model. It's a hobby of its own.
Yeah,
it's insane. It's not a level I'm at. But I was talking to Jackson the other night actually. I was just like, I'm getting to a point with my builds, especially armor ones, where I used to, not that I disagreed with how they model, but I was just like, they model differently to me. They go all in on the research and all the detailing, making sure like if it's replaceable with a more accurate piece, they will do that. And for me, I was just like, I don't really care about that. But my mentality is changing into like, I get it. I completely get why they do it, and I can see the fun in it. To try and produce something as accurate as humanly possible. I can understand why that's so biting.
Or even just, I know our good friend Jim Bates, he'll get a model, and I think the part that he enjoys, I'm going to speak for him a little bit, but he'll get a model of, say, a mosquito, and then that'll take him to, well, the Canadians had 7 of these mosquitoes, and this particular one over here had different propeller blades on it, and I mean he'll use that model kit to propel him to research, and sometimes he even writes articles on it and everything, and then he and I'll talk. He's like, I got to get this model done and everything, and I'm like, I don't always know that you've got to get that model done. If it's led you down a path that ultimately resulted in a lot of joy from research and writing and looking up photographs and doing all that, then to me you've gotten an awful lot of bang for the buck for whatever that Airfix kit cost you, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely the trails that you can fall down is, I think is more, to me, it's more important than the actual build it when I first started, if that makes sense. I think I'd like to learn, if I get, let's just say I get a Ferret armored car, one of the Airfix ones, the new ones. And I say, okay, well, where was it used? When was it used? When was this model used? And then, okay, everybody does it this way. What's a little bit different way you could use it, or something to that effect? So that, that's a perfect example is the Tamiya H39 that's coming out. The new the French tank that's coming out. Yeah, it comes with the French markings and the German markings with the German turret and stuff, which is great, fantastic. But where else was it used? The Israelis used it in 56 and in the early war. So there's an odd idea right there. You can go down a trail like that and just start looking for their versions of it and how they changed it and stuff like that. Stuff like that. There's just so much you can do and just go crazy with. But you have, and again, something I think also we need to talk about is with this is you gotta be careful, because you can go down that rabbit hole and you won't even build the kit, because I know that's happened to me before. So
no, that never happens.
No,
come on, man.
No.
None of us have stashes.
No. It's like you get the kit you wanted for a long time. You finally get it, and you're like, I'm going to do this. And by the time you've done so much research on it, you're like, I'm done.
Well, and again, I think there's value in that. You'll have a moment, right? You're going to go buy a kit of that, Yak 9, and you're gonna kind of dream of what that's going to be like, and this is what I'm going to do on the base, and I'm going to buy these aftermarket parts. And a lot of those projects, for me, I'm only speaking for me, don't ever come to fruition, but I really enjoyed the thought process and the planning and everything with it. So whether the build actually ever happens or not, in some ways, is a little bit irrelevant. Not always, but
no, yeah. I at nighttime when I'm in bed, I mentally build a lot of models. Like you say, there's these kits that have either been announced or just released, or even in the stash. I'll sit there and just like, I want to add this to it. I want to get that finisher. I want to display it like this, and then it'll never get done because I will have already overwhelmed myself with the project.
Yeah.
You're getting roadblocks from your mental construction. I love that.
Yeah,
because I do the same thing. So yeah.
Well, that was a good conversation. That was a great topic, Jensen, and I really do appreciate you bringing that around. Next, me and Scott had an interview with Joan Biediger talking about some of her models, some of her work at MMSI and other shows. Fantastic. And we're going to go ahead and play that for you right now.
Recording in progress.
You gotta love that. We are going to have a fun conversation tonight with my friend Joan Biediger. I'm really excited to have this conversation, as well as my good friend Grant Mayberry, who is on the call with us tonight as well. And I just have become a really huge fan of Joan's approach and her perspective and the way that she incorporates art elements into her models. And excited to speak with you, Joan. Anyway, welcome.
Thank you, Grant and Scott. I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh man, it's our pleasure for sure. Well, I got to know Joan. She's local here in Salt Lake in the area, and she also has her partner is a friend of mine as well. And I've been to some shows with Joan. I kind of want to start there with your perspective. You've been to some of the biggest and best shows in the world, especially ones that I think people would call figure shows.
Right, right. Well, there are a few core shows that we try to go to every year, and I would say Chicago and MFCA. They're figure shows, but they do incorporate ordnance as well. So it's a variety of things, dioramas. And that's what's nice about those kind of shows. You're not just locked into figures. MFCA is in Pennsylvania. That's coming up in May. That's another big show. And they've been around for years. These shows, a lot of them have been 50, 60 years. And I've been to a few of the World Expo shows. The one in Boston, that was back, I think, in 2005, maybe. That was a great show. That's more of the world. The World Expo is kind of put together. It was thought up by Shep Payne and a couple of the founding modelers. They wanted to have the World Expo bring the whole world together. So it travels around between America and Europe. The Boston show was absolutely fantastic. I've been to the one in Stresa, Montreux. Really great shows. It's
Wow.
very lots of people from different countries showing an amazing amount of work is shown. So same kind of thing too. It's not just figures. There's ordnance, there's tanks, there's cars, there's dioramas, there's a variety of things. All of it in the gold, silver, bronze is the way the judging works at those shows as well.
Isn't the World Expo like every 4 years? Is it 3 years or 4
I
years?
think it's every 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the Olympics of model. It's like every couple of years. That's a great idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
then
It's
this year,
coming up in
Yeah.
France. Yeah.
yep.
As far as perspective on those shows, I mean, especially these shows that kind of tend to straddle the lines. I mean, what is it about maybe a figure show versus, like, I know you've been to an IPMS National and other shows, but what do you think maybe attracts you to a figure show that maybe just a traditional plastic model only show or might not bring to the table?
For me, I think it's more of I like a variety of different subjects. It's not so structured. I think there are always people that just show their work at the figure shows without it being in competition. I feel like it's it's not I have to be the best person. It's more of, it's like, how do I fit in a group of peers? Do I get a bronze or a silver? It's not like you're getting it and nobody else is getting one. So they kind of give out as many medals. It's more of you're on a scale, within the hobby. And they're very welcoming. The one thing I really love about, especially the Chicago MFCA, they have a hospitality suite and everybody gets together in the evenings. It's really fun. You get to meet just great people, have lots of conversations about artwork. And I think I think the figure shows kind of are a little more geared to artwork, but they don't leave out the plastic models, where I feel like maybe the IPMS shows are more more just about the plastic, which is great because I actually love building plastic models as well. I have tanks and planes and everything in my stash and lots
Yes,
of
you
machining
do.
Krieger.
Yeah,
First
for
thing
sure.
I ever built was model railroad stuff,
Oh, wow.
the
Oh, okay.
fairground rides. I
Oh,
loved
wow.
that was the first those early 90s first things I ever built. I loved those. Just painting them with testers and
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
just they were I like putting things together. I think it's my dad was a mechanic, so
Hmm.
I've always been a tinkerer and a take it apart and put it together kind of person and see how it works.
I think you can definitely see that in your approach. And one of the things that's my favorite about your work is you tend to bring an art focus as well as a model focus and put those two elements together. And it's really awesome what you come up with. I mean, one of the pieces that I think really shows that is you brought a machining Krieger, I think a Mark 44 ammo night to an IPMS Nationals, and it was awesome. It was, I mean, you weathered it, you made it look. I mean, the thing looked like it weighed a ton sitting there on the base, but also you incorporated. I'll let you tell it, but you incorporated elements of art and a particular artist into that build. Maybe
Oh,
talk
I
us
did.
through that.
Yeah, so with that build, the weathering I love. I love
Yeah.
weathering anyway, but it was really a lot of fun to put it together and weather it. But then when it got to putting it on the diorama, I kept thinking, wow, what am I gonna do here? And so I was thinking, well, post-apocalyptic, of which, of course, I'm obsessed with post-apocalyptic stuff. And I thought, well, how about if it's holding a painting? And then I found this painting by Picasso. I didn't even, it was not even one I was familiar with. And I thought it kind of fit really well. The name of the painting is The Imploring. So it had kind of a broken up painting in its hand. And then on the bottom, on the ground, I kind of went classic with some sculptures of Michelangelo that were all broken up on the bottom. Just we printed some out and then I just smashed them and they were on the ground. But yeah,
Yeah,
that
that
was really
was
fun.
yeah, that was very like Scott said, it was the build was fantastic, but what you did by telling the story, I think is one of the key things that you do very, very, very well. And I could see that in the artist side of you and the range you have, because it looked like it weighed 1,000 tons, but then it's holding this precious painting. So it's just like I was like, oh, this is just perfect. But going back to art, do you I guess I'm trying to say, do you try to put more emphasis on the art of what you're trying to do, or do you just kind of free flow and just if it happens, it happens, or
I kind of go back and forth on that sometimes. It's similar to, and it's funny because I spent, maybe during the pandemic, maybe 5 years where I really didn't do anything.
Mhm.
I didn't do any figures. I didn't build anything. I did other kinds of art, but not
Mhm.
that. But it's kind of funny in school when I was in art. I tended to like to say something,
Mhm.
like make a statement with things. So I noticed for a long time I didn't do that. I was more just painting things, but I feel like maybe now I'm kind of going back because I've kind of branched out to dioramas and box dioramas.
Yeah.
So that really kind of taps into that. It's a real, especially the box diorama. It's a real challenge because it's both you're creating a scene and it's engineering the scene and it's trying to get what you want to say
Yeah.
out there. And it's great. It's electronics, it's lighting, it's a real challenge. It kind of brings art to it in a
Mhm.
way.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I like your use of color, and I'm sure I don't have the eye that you do. But going back to the ammonite for a minute, you used a bright yellow and a bright red, but yet you brought a lot of iron and
Mhm.
earth tones and kind of browns and blacks and everything. And so the piece really had a lot of, I don't know, stark elements to it, but then you had the little flower on the base. Just really, really like that. And then, we'll talk about your box that you brought last year to our show here in Salt Lake City, which was amazing. But, bringing on those elements, but then, like you said, making a statement. When I look at your work, it always kind of makes me think.
Well, did you notice the decals on the Ammo Night? I'm
I'm
not sure if anybody even
not
really
sure.
noticed
I'm not
what they
sure
were,
if I
or-
did.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure if I did.
Yeah,
Now I'm
well,
embarrassed.
you'll have to look at them sometime and see, because
Okay.
they aren't your traditional decals.
Okay,
Uh-oh.
now I got a
It's-
challenge.
Now you got a challenge.
Now you got a challenge. See if you can figure out where they're from, or I should just tell you they were fingernail decals.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to say though, and they were pretty darn good decals too. They went on really nicely. They were very thin, and they were a
Yeah.
lot easier to put on than some of the ones that came with it.
Yeah, you would think they would be, because they're going to be a strong base to them too. So
Yeah.
that would, and I didn't even, to tell you the truth, and I was fascinated by it, but you did a great job of hiding them, because I didn't even notice it.
Yeah,
That's great.
they were very colorful and different.
Yeah. That was So you talked about, you're doing your shadow boxes, which are beautiful. I saw them in MMSI and in Utah, just amazing. I really fell in love with your globes, your flat of the world maps. How did that come about? That was amazing.
Well, I love world maps, and I'm
Oh,
a
yeah.
cartographer for my
Oh.
job, so it kind of follows. But
Yeah.
I have some old world maps at home. I have one of England from the 1600s. We
Mm.
have one of New York in early 1900s. I love old world maps, but
Yeah.
I was thinking, wow, I just have never seen anything like that. As far as anything you could get in the figure world or flats.
Right.
So I was searching STLs, and I found this STL of the map, and it was kind of a pain, because I think it's actually meant to be done with one of those CNC wood cutters. But we got the STL, and Barry did his magic in the slicing program and we got it to print, and it was great. It's kind of it's not a traditional flat, but it's kind of a demi-rond, but it was very interesting. I did a lot of research to see what kind of colors, because a lot of those old maps, they were hand colored, so there's
Right.
50 different
Yeah.
versions of each one.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting when I did that, because I searched and searched and searched, and I could not find that exact thing. But as I did my research, I found that it's actually they did a compilation of two famous maps.
Oh.
So the top half is from one map, and the bottom half is from another. I'm not
Yeah.
sure why they chose to do it, because both of the maps were gorgeous, but
Yeah. Why make it
Yeah.
easy? Come on.
Right, I know.
It reminds me so much of, if you like, the Royal Admiral buildings in England, or in London itself, where the naval buildings there. It has those globes. If you go in the chamber rooms, and they have those huge globes that are on the wall, they're flats. They're not flats. They're ovals, but they're not complete ovals. They hang them on the wall, and that's what it reminded me of. The coloring was just phenomenal. Just your coloring just kind of jumped off the page, and it jumped off the print, and it was a beautiful combination. And that's one of the things I really enjoy about your work, is that you're not afraid to express in color. And that's, I think, some, especially, and you see that a lot more with figure painters. And I don't mean to ramble on. I'm sorry. I'll get to a question, I swear. You see that more, and I think you see that more in European painters than you do in the American side. Not saying it's wrong or right. It's just one of those things. I think it's the way they're raised in their school. Their school programs are a lot different than America. And they express themselves a little bit different than we. Did you have any art training? Is much art training in college or high school? Or I knew you're a photographer, and definitely.
I did. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Drawing and Painting from the University of Utah.
There you go. I figured there was something in there. I see, because the color choices are just immaculate. And and that's one of the things that we see. You see, you can sure enough if you see this, but I see that like with MMSI and some of the other figure shows, especially the shows in Europe, the color is just jumps off of it. And your globes do that. They just bang. It's right there. And and you could tell the training that went on. What else have you been working on? I mean, are you working on anything right now, or are you?
I am. I have an idea for another box diorama. So I'm just at the very beginning stages of that. I've been doing a lot of experimenting. It's going to have windows and just a kind of a street scene, kind of something that'll make you think. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of practice coming up with how to get a foggy window with the airbrush and different types of
do you do like Shep used to show in his books and make a little tiny scale of it, model of it, and then kind of blow it up to real size? Or do you just kind of work in one, the finished scale and just let it kind of develop how it develops?
I kind of work in the finished scale. Yeah, because mine tend to be small because I hate to carry big things. So my box dioramas, and I know you're supposed to make it be the size it's supposed to be, but mine's always it's got to be smaller. I'm not going to carry it. So
well, then that's the size it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Yeah, and I also have in my head I want to do a micro-sized box diorama. So we'll see how that is. I also love book nooks and that kind of thing. I'm actually working on one of those right now. And of course, I have Scott very kindly gave me one of the little Yamato ships. And I have an idea for maybe a diorama for that. Not a deep box diorama, but maybe kind of a halfway demi box diorama for that.
So how long have you been doing box dioramas? Is this a new thing the last couple of years?
It is. It's a new thing the last couple of years. It's something I've thought about for years and years. And it's kind of, I kept thinking, I'm never going to be able to do that. And Barry would tell me, my husband would say, you just have to sit down and do it. And it's like, okay. So I finally decided, okay, I am going to sit down and I'm just going to do it. And it worked. It worked. Yeah. It's a lot of, for me, I have some spatial challenges, always have had since I was in school. It's I end up having to cut things 2 or 3 times because I'm measuring and I'm thinking, oh, the direction is this way, but then actually it's not. It's the other way, kind of spatially challenged. But I still love them. They're a great challenge. From figuring out the perspective to building the room to building the outside, all the electronics. It's a fascinating thing.
It's interesting, doing it that way, kind of working in the finished scale and letting it develop, because sometimes I'm assuming it's going to take you places that you didn't originally envision. And so then you have to kind of react and deal with that. And like going back to your map, what I really like about that is that, the 2 globes that are sort of the main part of that. You've got kind of a muted color palette, as a cartographer, I'm sure that's inspired by that. But then all around the edges, a lot of the figures and a lot of the text and everything the colors are quite vivid and not contrast with the globes, but they're certainly a different look to it.
Yeah. And that's the way a lot of those old maps were. They were, and some of those, interestingly enough, if you look at some of the ones that were not colored, they're all muted. They're all like a tannish color. They look quite different than the ones that were hand colored, and they were colored mostly with watercolor. So I did that in acrylic and enamels. So the acrylic tends to be brighter than what you would normally get with a watercolor. But yeah, I had fun with that. It was a challenge. I would have to tell you, that was probably the most difficult thing I have ever painted. It took me over a year to do it because I started it, and it's one of those things where you keep looking at it and your eye just doesn't know where to go next when you're painting it. And I got tired of it and I put it down for a few months, but then I finished it for for Chicago. So yeah.
For those of our listeners at home, Joan earned a well-deserved gold medal at MMSI in Chicago for that piece, and it was something I love going to the show. The MMSI show is great. If you haven't been to it, you gotta go, and it's really fantastic. But I like to walk sort of the aisles and look, and certain things will always catch your eye. And this little map, it's not very big at all, but it really catches your eye. And the way you rendered even just the smallest little font in the text to the figures to the lines on the map, I can see why it took you such a long time.
Yeah, it was complex. Way more complex than most of the other stuff I've done.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful piece. I mean, just
Thank
really
you.
sorry to gush, but it's really a special piece. So Grant, I'm gonna take us into her box because we keep
Go ahead.
dancing around it. But you made a box called Algorithm is Art, and I don't want to say too much about it, maybe let you talk about it, but you brought it to our show here in Salt Lake, the Rocky Mountain Expo, and had it on display. And I was just blown away by it. It's just really, really a neat piece. But maybe tell people about that box and your inspiration and kind of how that came together.
Okay. So the box is called Algorithm as Art, and it didn't start out anything how it looks. The subject matter didn't. It kind of morphed as it went along, but it has a bunch of old, peeling paint windows, or not windows, but walls. It's basically, there is so much angst about AI and art. And I was thinking, how can I make a statement that would show the kind of feelings that I've been reading, a lot of posts on like the Shiflett brothers and those, and people are just, like a lot of things, they're worried that it takes their jobs away. And I wanted a graphic representation. It is a pretty graphic
Yeah.
box. So basically I built a robot in the back. So the robot is only a shadow, but the robot is a very nicely rendered robot that you can't really see because it's behind the wall. But I had a lot of fun building it out of parts and pieces. But it's holding a head, and it has a little cutter on it. And on the floor in front of it are the heads of Salvador Dali, Frida Kahlo, Van Gogh, and way in the back is Andy Warhol. And it kind of is a graphic representation of an AI algorithm taking those artists' works and outputting them. There's a painting on the floor in the back. What I did was I actually got onto an AI program to there's a painting in the front with a robot arm painting it, and it's a mashup of Salvador Dali and Frida Kahlo and a bunch of artists, but it's very obvious that it's an AI generated piece of art. So I tried to make the generate. Boy, that was a challenge. Took me several hours because the thing, it wouldn't give me what I wanted. I finally made it give me a couple of paintings I could use in the box, but it kind of shows, I wanted something that was an AI generated image for the diorama to kind of bring home, those artists, and it's just kind of taking out of their imagination in a very graphic way and just mashing it all together in something that is usually not anywhere near what one of those paintings. Salvador Dali is probably one of my art heroes of all time. But yeah, it just, I think it was, some people didn't like it because it is gruesome, and I understand that, but I really wanted to make a statement that they would remember, even if they didn't like it.
Yeah.
They'll remember it.
What I was gonna say is what I like about the piece is, like a lot of different things in art, you can really, I guess, interpret it different ways. You can look at it and it's easy to say, well, that, you know, AI is going to absolutely kill art, but then you could also kind of say, well, we kind of fear this new tool and we've demonized it and made it out to be this monster that maybe it really isn't, but the piece doesn't make your mind up for you. I don't think. That's my interpretation of it.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about something like a box diorama is you can put so much into it.
Yeah.
Rather, you can tell it does give you more of a narrative, and that's part of the great thing with introducing, you know, a more of an artistic view is the viewer can interpret it how they want. I mean, I lead you a little bit with the title, but, you know, then it's just up to the viewer to interpret it. I have my own interpretation, but yeah, I think you can interpret it whichever way you'd like.
Yeah, that, like Scott said, that's. I think it's very interesting, and I'll guarantee you, it was the only model there that there were groups of people standing around arguing about different styles. So is it literally, or is it figuratively, or is it So it was interesting, and it was very, very provocative in a way that is great. I think this hobby needs. I like the way that you did the walls. It's probably have. I don't know why. I think that the ways the walls of the paint coming off the white walls is that the AI robot was trying to live that kind of lifestyle, like a painter that didn't have it. So he thought that was part of what he had to be in an environment like that to paint. My wife loved it. My wife was phenomenal. Awesome. Yeah, she's a Frida fan, huge Frida fan. And so she saw it definitely. And it was one of those things where she's like, this tells a story. And, and that's what it is. You said it didn't start out that way. When you started it, do you find that a lot of your projects do that? You have go in with this one idea, then you're like at the end, you're like, where did this come from? Or
I do sometimes, but that one more than any other project I've worked on, it didn't turn out any. I mean, there are elements, but it just wasn't anything how I first imagined it. Sometimes painting a figure, sometimes I'll get started on it, and I have a bad habit sometimes of, I'll keep going with it and keep going with it, and I don't really like it that much, and it's like, oh man, do I just keep going? But yeah, and then sometimes it, and of course with figure, you can put the paint over it, you can transform it, and it's like there's been a few times where I started out and like I did not like the way the color was, or figure didn't like the hair color. So then it's like, because I hate to just put it up on a shelf after I put all that time into it. So I've been willing to change a whole color scheme and it's usually for the better. I gotta say, it usually is. Usually you kind of get, in your heart if you're doing something and it's kind of, it's not really what I wanted, but yeah.
Right. So how long did it take to make the whole diorama itself, the box diorama?
It probably took me about 2 months.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
but I worked on it a lot. And then I had Chicago as a or no, I think I brought it first to MFCA. So I had that as a motivator to get it done, to bring something. So yeah.
That was your goalpost.
Yeah. Sometimes I need that because I'm a procrastinator.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, which element of, you said that one was your first box diorama. So which part of the box diorama, was it the concept or the painting, or like which part of it do you think was your favorite, and which part of it was like the part you struggled with the most?
I think my favorite part was when I finally landed on the key depicting the idea of the artist's heads. I think that's what really, really brought it together for me. The original idea was always had the peeling, abandoned walls kind of, just decaying. I watched a lot of videos of people going through abandoned buildings and Yeah, just wanted to kind of give that feeling. But then when it gelled with, the idea of those artists' heads and the robot and just having the shadow of the robot, that was
Yeah.
difficult to get that shadow.
Yeah.
I had to, if you were to take it apart, you'd see I placed that robot like 4 times. There's like 4 little holes drilled because I have the legs pinned so it'll stay in, but it's like I kept moving it, moving it. It's hard to do shadows that come out well.
It's got like a Chernobyl feel. You watch those videos online of people that go through the areas around Chernobyl now, and
Yeah.
the peeling paint, and just like you said, the decay. It's got really that kind of feel to me. I know that probably wasn't your intent, but it's really got that kind of dark, neglected feel to it.
Yeah, the dystopian kind of idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned before your love of post-apocalyptic themes, and I think it fits into that really, really well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's
No,
talk
my
about
fault.
some flats and busts and things like that. I mean, you're really great at painting those as well. You've got a bunch on your Instagram. In a minute here, we'll have you give all your Instagram links so people can see all the things that we're talking about. But which do you like? If more one than the other, you like to paint a bust or a figure or a flat, or is it all just kind of something fun to paint for you?
It's all kind of something fun to paint. When I first started, I actually only painted flats. I got into those. Barry came home from a scams show. It used to be a show in California, and he brought me one, and I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. And I painted that, and it was like I just kind of stuck with the flats, and I was like, I'm really not interested in the round figures. And then I saw there was I think a Kickstarter for Blackthorn miniatures, and they had this fairy bust, and I thought, wow, I really do like that. So Barry printed it up for me, and it was like, wow. Once I got into the round figures, it was like, wow, I wish I would have started with that. They really are fun. I always thought I wouldn't be able to be very good at painting them. I was so much more comfortable with the flat figures, probably because I've painted a lot of things on canvas and drawn a lot of things, so I felt more comfortable. But yeah, I love the round figures as well. I haven't painted very many of them. I'm not very prolific for sure. But
That Blackthorn miniatures, is that the Fey and Prickly Leaves piece?
it is. It is.
Okay.
And I liked it so much I painted 2 of them.
Oh, very cool. Very
Yeah, you did a one in green and orange, right?
Yeah, the green and more the regular skin tone. And
Right.
then I did one that had purple hair, and it was more of purple and yellow kind of fall kind of
Yeah.
color scheme.
I really enjoyed the hair on the fall scheme. The purplish hair, it just the way it flowed and the way the tone was just beautiful on that. So it's kind of interesting that you came from flats to rounds. Most people do it the other way. And it's funny. I guess it's like you said, though. You're used to painting on an art surface. The flat.
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of people like myself and others that have tried to do flats have a problem with, because I'm more used to the curvature and the feel it. But I think that definitely is a plus when you start from something like on a 1D or 2D surface like that, and you go to a 3D surface. It's definitely, you can see the interaction, I think, more in your rounds, for me at least. But do you have a favorite? Do you like rounds? Do you like flats more, or I know you just started but
it's hard to say. I think I like them probably equally now that I've done a lot more flats than I have the round figures. So, but yeah, it'd be hard for me to choose.
It's really kind of all about the subject, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big part of it. That's nice though, because these days in both rounds and flats, there's such a variety of subjects available.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that's because of 3D printing too. It helps so much for people to get that availability. Now, most people don't know if they know flats are metal paint or metal.
Mhm.
pewter.
Traditional are engraved in metal. Yeah.
Yeah, the pewter or the recast in pewter and stuff like that. Have you ever had? I mean, do you have trouble with pewter painting? Have you? Are you always been very easily for you to do, or because I know some people have a lot of problem with it. They'll of course they'll put the primer on it and they'll start painting and it get a little heavy and sometimes the primer comes off and stuff like that. Have you had anything like that, or you?
I haven't. If they're well primed, they usually, if and I painted all of the flats in acrylic, so I haven't
Did you?
really had any problems with them coming off. The only problems I've had occasionally when I've stored some of the flats is if there's fine detail, you can bend the metal.
Oh wow.
So I've
Yeah.
had to repair some of that where it's bent. But
Yeah.
other than the paint coming off, I really haven't had a problem with that.
You mentioned that you've got kind of an idea for a box, and I won't press you for details, but what are maybe some other things that might be in the queue? Any more maybe plastic model crossovers or figures that you are interested in maybe working on?
Oh yeah, I've got a figure that's almost finished. It's another bust. I can actually show you real quick. If you can see this, I'm painting it way different from what it was designed to be. It is a Nuts Planet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and if you see,
Very
it's
cool.
a demon, and I've painted it more a little bit on the artistic side. Old Dutch
Okay.
masters, if you But yeah, I had that idea for
really cool.
that. And I definitely want to do the Battleship Yamato.
Mm.
And I do want to do another Maschinen Krieger. I have a whole bunch of them hanging around. But what's great about the Maschinen Krieger, I don't know if I have a bunch of small metal ones, gaming size, because there's
Okay. Yeah.
a place in Australia that makes Slave to Gaming. They make small minis. They have a whole game built around it now. And I've gotten some pretty cool small. I was thinking about maybe a diorama with those, a box diorama, some post-apocalyptic scene.
There you go. That's really cool. Well, I want to do a post-apocalyptic diorama myself, so I'm going to have to sit down and pick your brain for some
Yeah,
ideas.
there you go.
See what you think of my ideas and concepts. That's really, really cool. Yeah, Machining Krieger, that sounds really cool. Well, like as far as shows that you're going to go to this year, I think you mentioned that you're going to go to Versailles, and I'm assuming you're going to be at that 50th anniversary MMSI show.
Oh yeah, definitely. They have some great things planned, I think.
Yeah.
Not sure exactly what all, but they're going to have some really cool stuff. Yeah.
I don't know. Last year you had it pretty good. I think I saw somebody getting a free haircut from Gary Baker
Oh yeah.
at the show.
For sure.
So yeah, no, it's a great show. What a great community. Gary's a great guy, and man, what a person to get a haircut from too.
Yeah,
right?
no kidding.
Mr. World famous there for his hair and makeup. But anyway, but yeah, what other shows maybe are you thinking about attending this year?
Chicago, MMSI, maybe New York. New York is really a fun show. It's in November. It's a small show in Freeport, New York, and we've missed it for the last few years, but boy, that's a great group of people and a great smaller show. It's really a fun show.
Oh, that
So
sounds
that's probably it for this year. And I would at some point really like to make it to some of the other European shows, maybe some of the ones in Italy, or there's one, it escapes my memory right now. There's a one in a small English village that looks really cool. Yeah, maybe Mosen looks like a really great show as well.
yeah.
Well, and of course, I will be going in June to the Rocky Mountain Hobby Expo.
Oh yes,
I
yes,
can't miss that. That's right down the street.
Well, having had the experience of watching you judge and judging a model with you and listening to your feedback, I mean, we definitely are excited to have you as a part of that, and that's becoming a fun event. I think this year's going to be a lot more fun than even last year, so that's exciting. Well, let's give people some links where they can find your work. I know the pictures of your pieces are probably best on Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what's your Instagram handle?
Oh, that's a good question. No pressure.
No pressure.
Okay,
On
perfect.
Instagram, you are
J Barone.
okay. Awesome. And then, do you do anything else on Facebook or other social media, or is it pretty much just that one account?
Pretty much just that.
Awesome. Well, if you could kind of tell people one thing about you as an artist, as a modeler, as a painter, what would that be?
Just don't be afraid to try new things,
Well,
even
that's
if they don't work. Just keep trying. Because actually, I tried a box diorama in between these two ideas, and I don't know if it's the subject, if it's the medium of the box diorama, but I was so set on an idea and I just could not make it work. So you got to just try. Even if it doesn't work, you still learn something. And
Yeah.
it got me to the idea of my next one. So
Yeah, it's interesting how we learn so much more when we fail than if we succeed.
well, and I think you should not be afraid to break conventions. I mean, just why do you have to paint something in a particular way? I think it's awesome to have something new and different.
Yeah, that's well said. That's very well said. Well, Grant, anything else that you want to bounce off Joan? You're muted.
Yes, I do. I have one question for you. What inspires Joan?
Oh, all kinds of things. I would have to say other artists inspire me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of other sculptors and canvas painters. I get a lot of inspiration from that. A lot of traditional, a lot of new. Surreal is a big one. Even interesting movies. Old black and white movies. I watch them with an eye of every scene. If you could pause the TV, there are so many of those old black and white movies that it's like the perfect box diorama. We've even done that before. We've paused a movie and snapped a shot saying that'd be a perfect box diorama. You got to look for it everywhere.
Yeah.
Would you do that in grayscale if you did something inspired by a black and white movie?
It depends. Depends on the subject. Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah, I think that you're right there about the old pictures, because I've watched the Maltese Falcon like 1,000 times, and there's so many times I've just wanted to snap a shot and just build it like this, And Scott brings up a great point. Would you do it gray or color? I think the artist in all of us would try and say, okay, well, I'm going to paint it in color, but I think that sometimes the gray tones are actually more provocative.
It can be very effective. Yeah.
Very effective. And, and things like that. And you bring up a great point about just finding art or finding inspiration everywhere, wherever you're at. So I appreciate that. That's a great answer.
Thank you.
Well, to anybody who's listening, please check out Joan's work. She's an inspiration to me. I love seeing what she's done, and I love talking about her in the third person, apparently. But anyway, Joan, you are an inspiration. Your work is amazing, and I'm glad that I've been able to kind of get to know you and your work. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
And can't wait to see what's going to come out of your studio next. And also want to thank you for trying to teach me how to use a paintbrush with you and Barry. That was really,
you got to really come over again.
Yes, I do.
So people don't know, Scott weaseled his way into some free lessons from Joan and Barry by hanging out with them at their house and getting some free painting lessons, which we're all jealous about because we didn't get to go.
It was fun.
It was really fun.
Door's always open, Scott. You can't learn it all in one lesson.
There you go, Scott.
I can hear Barry in the other room. No, Joe, no. No, what are you doing? I did bring pizza, and it was really good pizza.
That's true. It was. It was.
Yep. And gifts, evidently. You brought gifts.
Yeah. Well, I got gifts too. I got some flats and
there you go.
Yep. And Barry hooked me up. So yeah, it's been great. But Joan, thank you so much for joining us and talking to us. I'm excited about what you've talked about, and now I can't wait for the Rocky Mountain Show and to see your next piece.
Okay, great. Thanks, you guys. It was great to talk to you both.
That was
It
great.
was
to talk
awesome.
To you.
Have a great night.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
That was a lot of fun, Grant. Man, I enjoyed that conversation with Joan so much, and she's very unique in her approach, and I love the way she incorporates actual art elements into her work. I love the way she uses color. The bottom line, I love what she does, and the pieces that we talked about were all fantastic. I'll try and post a couple of those. If not, if I can't actually post the photos, then I'll definitely give a link in the show notes where people can go to her Instagram account and check out more about what she does, because I think she's a terrific modeler.
Right. And another thing is that she's a cartographer in real life. So she's a map maker. And one of her works that she did as a dual map of the world. And we talk about it a lot during the interview, but it's fantastic. And if you just look at one thing, look at that, and you'll see why it's so enjoyable.
Speaking of that interview with Joan, we get into that box she did that talks about AI. And if our listeners, and if you guys haven't heard it yet, the latest Small Subjects, Jake McKee, who's a good friend of ours, was on Small Subjects, and they were talking about AI. And it's a pretty interesting conversation. I enjoyed it. So if you haven't heard that, maybe check that out. It's their latest episode, and see what you think. But Jake's got a great mind, and he's very creative, and it was a good conversation.
Definitely really good conversation. So let's move on to our last discussion point. We're going to have Scott give us an update of what the Seattle show was like.
Thanks, Grant. Well, first of all, we missed you. Usually I know you join us, but you weren't able to this year. A lot of people wanted to say hi to you, so it was great. But no, it's such a great show. And we were talking earlier about a value prop for shows, right? And so first of all, the venue is at the Museum of Flight in Renton, close to a lot of those Boeing facilities. And so the environment that you're in is fantastic. As you're walking into the door, you see old Lockheed Super Connie, which is one of the most beautiful commercial aircraft ever made. They've got a fantastic museum there. You got everything from World War I aircraft and even pre-World War I aircraft all the way through Concorde and even some space pieces inside there. So it's really terrific. The model show itself is on the main area of the museum underneath an SR-71 and a C-47, DC-3, and several other aircraft. It's really just a great environment, but there's not a contest element. The museum curator will pick one model that he really likes, and other than that, there's no awards. But again, it brings a different perspective. You go from table to table, from modeler to modeler, and just see really, really good work, really inspiring work. Everything from guys that build models with stirring sticks and popsicle sticks and other pieces of wood to more traditional methods. And that Seattle community is really rich. You've got Tim Nelson and Bill Huffman and, Jim Bates. And, on the Gunpla side, you've got Josh Scott and his community that do a lot of Gunpla. And there was a lot of that on display and some really, really impressive pieces. One of the pieces they had on display was a national award winner that is actually, he's actually won a trip to Japan from Bandai for his piece that he's doing. And so really, really great work. But, whether you love aircraft or armor or dump trucks or, kit bashed created science fiction pieces that don't even come from kits, it's a really great show and terrific community, like I said. So we always enjoy it. JB, frustrated tour guide John Bonani, fixed us up with a great verbo. We had some fun dinners as groups, like we always do, meeting up with tons of friends. John Gray we already mentioned, and obviously Jim Bates and Josh Scott. But we had I drove up there with Josh Josh Buck and the Knopfels were there, Hank and Dan and Carrie, shout out to them, just, and Rick Lawler was there, just tons of fun, tons of friends. It's become an annual thing, and Mother Nature kicked Josh and us in the pants a little bit this year. We ran into some pretty terrible weather, but man, the trip was worth it. It's a great show. And if anybody's maybe considering it next year, highly encourage you to, just kind of put that on your calendar. It's a different show. It's well worth it. Just to go to that community and that museum, but it's a great show too. And Jim and Josh and Tim and that group that puts the Model Mania show, the NWSM Club, they do a fantastic job. So shout out to them and shout out to the museum. Matt Burchett is the curator of that museum. He's very supportive of the club and vice versa. So it's a great symbiotic relationship. And just really, really good. Of course, you got to go to Skyway Hobbies, and I have to go to Easy Street, which I know Grant knows well, but greatest record shop ever. I mean, just love going there. Anyway, just a fun trip, and really enjoyed it as always.
Yeah, it looked like you guys had a really good time. It really looked fun. I missed going to the show this year because of work, but seeing the Easy Street stuff, you got to go to Easy Street if you go. They have great lunches there, by the way. People don't know that. It's not just a record store. It's a fantastic restaurant upstairs. The show itself is really cool. I really like the atmosphere of the show. A lot of people just sharing what they do. Again, it's all your models are in one area. So if you have figures and armor and stuff like that, it's all together so people can talk to you about what you do and how you go from one to one. And there's also a lot of people around. They have tables set up around the showing area where people are working on stuff at the same time, which is really kind of, in my opinion, is kind of cool because, you see woodworkers, you see model painters, you see figure painters, you see guys building gunplay, you see guys building tanks using photo etch. You see 1,000 things. And being immersed in that is kind of really one of the neat things about that show is you learn a lot and you can help people too. I mean, people asked, how would you do this? And you can say, oh, this is what I try and something like that. And it's a helpful, fun environment, which makes that show with Jim Bates does up there and that whole community does up there one of the best. I mean, in my opinion, which is one of the funnest shows you can go to.
Yeah, community is really the work there. And another shout out to our buddy Eric Brubaker, who met up with us finally. He was just recovering from a flu that he had and was wearing a mask, but he soldiered through it, and it was good to see Eric, and hope he's feeling better for sure.
And that's not the only museum up there. There's a lot of really good museums up in that area you can go to. I mean, you're like you said, you're right across from where some of the Boeing factories are, and you'll see the brand new planes coming off the lines and leaving before they've even painted in any color, basically. So it's pretty interesting stuff. So just a great all around environment and show for people to. And I'm not just saying that because I'm from that area, but it's just a great. It's from a great area.
It's a great area. That Boeing culture really permeates into the modeling culture of the area. It's a really strong modeling community, and it's really great. They support the show and the museum really well, and right. It's a very symbiotic relationship. So anyway, well, Grant, if I can do a couple of I guess house cleaning items, but as far as my show in Salt Lake City, just kind of a teaser. We'll have more on this as we move forward, but June 20th and 21st in Salt Lake City, the Rocky Mountain Expo, it is going to be bigger and better than last year. We'll have more details, but the seminars alone and the people that will be doing demos will be worth coming to the show. It's a really terrific show. We had a great first year last year, and this year is going to be even bigger and better. Going back to the 48 and 48, one more reminder, you heard from James and Malcolm earlier in the episode. But again, please participate if you can in whatever way that you can. If you have anything that you would like to donate for the auctions, please reach out to me and we can talk about that and let me know. But any support there is helpful. And again, if you just want to show up in the evenings and bet on things and have some fun and spike the football if you win and snipe somebody, that's great. Or if you just want to show up and build with us, that's great too. So really appreciate that. But yeah, anybody that has donations, please let me know. Again, thanks to our sponsors. I did forget to mention earlier on, talk with Brad at Tankcraft last night for a little while. It was great to catch up with him. They have 2 brand new mats available. They have a brand new double-sided Tiger 1 mat that he's actually sharpened the drawing up, but it's also double-sided now. There's a dark gray side and a yellow side. So that's worth checking out. And he has a brand new, I think it should be hitting the street any day now, M4A3E8 Easy 8 Sherman mat that I know is going to be really, really popular. And of course, Tankcraft is going to be supporting the 48 and 48 auction, with one of their packages of a mat and a glue base. So appreciate that from them. Anyway, boy, I think we've been going 90 minutes already. Jensen, what time is it over there in the UK?
Oh, well, just looking down at that clock and ring-a-ding-ding, baby, it's time for merch. That's right, if you would like to rep the Plastic Posse podcast, you can head over to loungetrousers.com and buy your jumpers, t-shirts, lounge trousers, mugs, any accessories you please to represent the Plastic Posse at your clubs, events, or even round Walmart. Head to loungetrousers.com to represent the Plastic Posse.
That's why we pay him the big bucks.
Ring a ding ding. Hey. All right, everybody. Well, that's about it for this show this week. It's been really good. I really appreciate Scott and Jensen here. Miss JB and TJ, but they're having a great time in Atlanta and wishing them all the best. Can't wait for 2 more weeks, and we'll probably hopefully be all together again, talking about our favorite hobby and talking about some other stuff too. I hope you guys are really enjoying the new format. Please, give us a heads up and let us know what you think. But I do really appreciate it. And so there's only one more thing to say. Yee-haw!
One of the ways that you can help support the Plastic Posse is to become a Plastic Posse Outrider. If you want to become a Plastic Posse Outrider, it's easy. You can even do it wearing lounge trousers. Just go to our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/Plastic Posse Podcast and set up a recurring donation there. These contributions help offset the cost of bringing you the posse. There are 3 different tiers of support, starting at just $1 a month. There are some great benefits to being an Outrider, like early access to podcasts, premium access to the host, the chance to appear on the podcast, and exclusive Triple P content and exclusive Triple P content and social events at model shows.
There's no way I'm editing that out. That's too good.
It was going so well. It was so smooth, and then just at the end.
Let's recognize our amazing deputy marshals. Just taking a moment for those of you that are supporting the posse and what we do. We can't thank you enough. Again, all these contributions go to help us cover the costs of the posse and what we do. It might be coins, it might be swag, it might be sponsoring an award from a show that needs a little bit of help. But everything goes back to the posse community. So thank you. Really appreciate that. Let's thank all of our deputy marshals. We're going to start with Richard Lane, Robbie Knopfs, Wesley Becker, Eric DeGleish, David Wassel, Matt Tupman, Glenn Fellon, Patrick Neff, Zach Pease, Robert Halleck, Brett Marcourt, Greg Williams, Nick Wolf, Brian Clark, Sean Earl, Black Hat Scale Models, Ben Hardaway, Craig Jarbo, Adam Jackson, Red Beach One Studios, James Mirando, Mike Norris, Stephen Rodwell, Rick Cooper, Eric Cavina, John Hell, Eric Kane, Logan Hansen, Paul Burdett, Tim Gidcombe, Dan Newman, Robert Blocker, Tyler Moore, Derek Post, Craig Flynn, Ken Childress, Drew Gardner, Scott Hall, Frank Perrone, the voice of Bob, Jeremy Diamond, Jay Kidd, Brandon Gentry, Lee Fogel, Robert Klein, Mark Ewing, Toadman, Model Doc, Hey Doc, Doug Reed, Greg James, Les Workala, John Everett, Uncle Buck, Mark Bradley, Eric Brubaker, Jeremy Moore, DB Scale Model Studio, Jeremy Elliott, Mike Talley, Previous Seat, Mediocre Middle-Aged Modeler, Dan Knopfel, and the legend, the man, JC Osborne.
Let's not forget the posse foreman. This crew is made up of posse outriders who give the deputy marshals a hand, and we also thank you for your support. As you guys have heard today, I am really bad with names, so I am sorry if I say your name wrong today. Again, we got Graham, Davidson, David, Keith, Dwayne, AK, Armor, Bill, JAK, Casey, Theresa, Raphael, Russ, Stephen, Mikkel, Lavar, Gil, Mike, Michael, Steve, Scott, Emery, The Krieger, Ozzy Modeler, William, Jeff, Eddie, Ross, Warhalf Models, G. Baker, Tom Stuff, Crazy Loca, Len, Cliff, Damon, Cody, Nukeman Mike, Ash, Irish Pat, Paul, iBones Models, Mr. Grizz, Jackson, Joel, Chris, Jamie, MD Models, Papa Steve Munzel, JV, Eric, Matthew, and David. And of course, our $1 and free posse, our posse outriders. Thank you.